welcome to the channel. Today's recap is I Will Take the Duchy from Today. Remember to subscribe. The main character is working and is about to deliver an order when suddenly someone calls out to her. The man says that her clothes are too loose today and that because of this, her figure is not visible. He notes that she has a beautiful figure and invites her to sit next to him. The girl understands that in front of her is the only son of an important feudal lord. Ever since her mother fell asleep, this guy has been pestering her constantly. She says she's busy, but he claims there are no more clients. She understands that no matter how many times he proposes to her or spreads rumors about their relationship, no matter how many times he accidentally touches her shoulders or hips, she still refuses and gets angry. But this guy seems impenetrable. The lady thinks that at least he is from the nobility, because Finto is already 32, and he is 12 years older than her. He has a terrible temper, he is already going bald, and the lady decides to simply ignore him. But he suddenly shouts after her and grabs her hand. He says that if he told her to come, then she should, and asks if she really thinks he's going to coddle her. Hilda doesn't understand what he's even talking about. The girl thinks that if he weren't a nobleman's son, she would have smashed a mug over his head long ago. She screams at him to let go, otherwise she won't tolerate this behavior anymore. But he yells back at her, asking what she could possibly do, and squeezes her hand tighter. The girl says that she is in pain and demands to let go, but the man says that it is time to teach her a lesson so that she will thank him later. The main character can't take it anymore, pulls her hand away and screams in pain. She hits him between the legs and calls him crazy. The guy immediately falls to the floor. She understands that the blow hit the target and that she did an excellent job. He groans, says that now he will fall into eternal sleep, and everyone in the establishment watches what is happening. The girl begins to realize what she has done. She hit the nobleman's son, and now she herself can be punished. But since things have come to this, she decides to go through with it. The man, seeing her approaching, asks if she's gone crazy. He is outraged by her behavior, but seeing her face, he screams and asks her not to come closer. After some time, she ends up in prison and realizes that she could be sentenced to death. The girl wonders why this guy doesn't wear iron panties. An important place needs to be protected. Hilda ponders how to enter eternal sleep, by cutting her tongue or by slitting her throat. At that moment, the knight calls her out. Soon she is standing in front of important people. She thinks this freak should be in the hospital, and she doesn't understand why he's here. Has he really come to watch her execution? The girl notices another man next to them. He is tall, broad-shouldered, with porcelain white skin, black hair, and the same eyes. Looking at his face, she wonders who he is. Her eyes fill with tears. At least before the end, she can look at something beautiful. She realizes she takes after her mother, the same blonde hair and violet eyes. I've often heard that she's beautiful, but his face is truly beautiful. It's calm and serious. And then someone suddenly calls out for Hilda Roos. The man furiously asks if she understands what she's done. Hilda thinks the old man chose the worst possible moment to open his mouth. She just clicks her tongue, falls to her knees, and screams. She asks the master to spare her life, assuring him that everything happened by accident. It was the same accident as when his son started groping her. The man is outraged. What is she talking about? The girl replies that if his son did it by accident, then everything happened by accident for her too, when she refused her persistent suitor. And she asks if he wanted to see her as his daughter-in-law, because she is sure that he did not. The man jumps up, shouting that someone like her can't be a daughter-in-law. The lady nods. She has no desire either. If a person has no intelligence, then let him at least be handsome, and if he is old, let him at least have hair. Hilda screams at the guy to at least say something if he hasn't swallowed his tongue, and asks what he expected by touching her. Both men are shocked, and the main character, catching her breath, realizes she was just going to beg for mercy. Now she doesn't understand what she's done. The guy next to him suddenly starts laughing, and the man next to him is surprised. The main character wonders why he is laughing, because her life is at stake. He says she hasn't done anything wrong. Hilda is surprised. Is he really on her side? And besides, he called her a girl, and she doesn't understand why. The old man turns to the Viscount in bewilderment, but he claims that the lady only refused his obsessive son and wants to know the reason for his behavior afterwards. The man tries to justify himself by saying that violence is wrong, and the girl screams that the cruelty was shown to her first. She shows her wrist. His son grabbed it first, and it left a bruise. The Viscount says this can be considered self-defense. but his interlocutor demands that the girl be punished. The guy claims that it's the other way around, and it looks like his son is trying to avoid responsibility. Both sides have grievances, so the Viscount suggests forgetting about it. The man wants to object, but the boy says that they can continue if he is sure that Duke Arfergio will support him. The man replies that the girl is of low birth, but the guy says that it doesn't matter and asks him to watch his words. The girl doesn't understand anything. They are talking about her, but she is lost in what is happening. The guy approaches her, introduces himself as Rogan Strauss, and says he is glad to meet her. She sees him closer and realizes he's even sweeter. He assures her that the princess needn't worry anymore. Hilda thinks his voice is soft as cotton candy, but then she thinks about his words. Could she really be a princess? That can't be. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Ruzia Arfeggio. In a world where strength proved status, it was in her hands that the most powerful magic lay. There are 4 great ducal families in the empire, and the Arfeggios were one of them. Ruzia was a great aesthete. Her father shouted that this was a chance to make her the future empress and asked if she had gone crazy by showing her face to a man in case rumors would spread. But the girl only smirked and said that no one would dare say anything to her face. She asked why it mattered what they said behind her back. Her father, however, shouted at her for daring to reject the prince, calling him not her type. He said that she did not understand the importance of the princess's position, but the girl replied that her father himself could take that place. The man was shocked that she dared to speak like that, but neither the duke nor the imperial family paid any attention to her refusal. They decided to betroth her to the prince, so Ruzia ran away. Later, everyone searched for the mistress, but she was nowhere to be found. She ended up marrying a simple gardener, handsome, though of low birth. The next day, the handsome savior came to Hilda's home, and she was surprised how he found her at all. She sat him down in the kitchen and listened to the Viscount's story for half an hour. Then she asked if her mother was really the Duchess, and her father was the gardener. The guy confirmed it, and the girl thought about her father, outwardly normal, but weak and unable to cope with stress. It was hard for him to do even simple things, so he fell into eternal sleep early. But my mother always said that he was handsome and the best husband. Now the girl thinks it's no longer important and asks if all this means she's the Duke's granddaughter. The boy confirms. Hilda closes her mouth in surprise. She is of noble birth. She always felt that she was different from ordinary commoners, probably because of her noble blood. The guy asks if she doesn't believe him. The girl says she's just surprised, but it sounds a lot like her mother. The guy asks if she is talking about her powers as a witch. The main character replies that no, she means that her mother appeared before the prince herself. The lady says, okay, and asks if he is really a Viscount, as many people have mispronounced his name. The young man repeats, he is Rogan Strauss. She agrees and thanks him for saving her, but she is curious how he arrived so on time. The guy says he's been watching her for a while. Hilda asks if he saw her hit Finto and then be taken away. He replies that he's been watching it even longer. The girl asks if it's really been since Mom fell asleep forever. The young man replies that he used to, and she thinks that he is a stalker, although he is handsome. Rogan says that 7 years after Ruzia's escape, the Duke ordered him to find the girl and bring her home, but her mother refused. The girl asks why. Then, dumbfounded, he asks if the Duke really wanted to marry his mother off to the prince again. The guy confirms. Ruzia didn't want her husband and daughter to be humiliated in high society. She thinks that's understandable. In high society, commoners are despised, and among commoners, aristocrats have no place either. If the outcome is the same, high society is better. The guy says that the master ordered to keep an eye on how the lady lives. The girl explains that her mother had lung cancer and she couldn't even move her hand. The Duke's family didn't help. They simply watched, and now they've suddenly decided to intervene. The young man says that the gentleman wanted to meet, but he was against it. The girl asks why, and the boy replies that his mother was unhappy among the aristocrats and did not want anything to do with the Duke. She asked him not to tell her daughter the truth, but Hilda was in danger. The girl says that this was her mother's wish, but her own dreams are different. The boy asks her if she wants to become part of the Duke's family. The girl replies, who would refuse? The Viscount explains that the life of aristocrats is not what she imagines. Many will not be happy with her, but the girl says that first she needs to be given a chance to understand everything herself. The guy says that in high society, no one will stand up for her. She could be insulted, humiliated, and aristocrats often have to risk their lives for their families. The main character replies that she understands. But the Viscount assures her that if she truly understood, she would not have spoken so calmly. Hilda wonders why he's angry. Maybe he doesn't want her to become part of the Duke's family? Or maybe he thinks she's unworthy. But the girl is sure he doesn't understand anything. And she asks if Finta would think he would behave the same way if she were from high society. And would his father have protected her if Rogan hadn't been a Viscount? They certainly wouldn't have let her go so easily. The girl says she wants power. He doesn't understand how important it is, because he's always had it. The lady wonders if she's insulting him. But he really doesn't know how scary it is for a young girl to live alone, and how much she has to endure every day. She's afraid, and now he's asking her to give up the power that could finally bring her safety. Rogan replies that he understands her feelings. Their conversation has gone wrong. The Duke wants to see her to check. Has Rutia's power been transferred to her? The heroine asks what will happen if she really does have this power. Rogan says she will then be warmly welcomed into the Duke's family, but that's not certain. If he loses his power, he can no longer observe her, which means he can't come to her aid. The main character is stunned. Is he really asking her to consider whether the game is worth the candle? He doesn't understand anything at all. She thinks, what will happen if she has no strength? Will she return home? But if you have the strength, she remembers her mother's words. Mom said that time cannot be turned back, but now Hilda understands that she has to try. The guy insists the Duke doesn't want to see her out of good feelings. And he asks, even knowing this, does she still want to date him? The girl looks determined and answers, of course. The Duke's estate is not far away. It takes 4 days to get there by carriage. But Hilda notices that Rogan drives non-stop, not even resting at night. They sleep right in the cart, but it is so comfortable that the girl gets a good night's sleep, although she still feels uneasy. Standing up, she wonders why there's such a strange atmosphere in the air. Rogan is to blame, of course. How can you sleep peacefully when you're sitting in a cramped space next to a stranger? It would be better if he went to bed too, but he doesn't even look sleepy. The heroine asks why he isn't sleeping. The Viscount replies that she shouldn't worry. A couple of nights without sleep won't affect him. Hilda understands that she was not worried about him at all, but about herself. What if she starts snoring? Or chattering her teeth? And how can she sleep with him staring at her like that? Time passes, and Hilda finally falls asleep, even snoring. The guy notices this. At that moment, she wakes up and asks if she was snoring. The young man looks at the book again and says that everything is fine. The girl is shocked. How could he answer so calmly? It would have been better if he had simply admitted that she snored. She's embarrassed. She can't even believe she managed to fall asleep. When they first met, Hilda thought that there would be no more shameful situations. But now she's terribly ashamed. She only shows her worst side. But she doesn't notice a single awkward detail about him, even though he hasn't washed. But why does his skin still glow and his hair look perfect? Hilda considers this unfair and decides that he will not see any more absurdities from her. Although drowsiness wins out and lying back down, she thinks, what difference does it make? Let him see everything. They soon arrive at the duchy, and Hilda is amazed at the luxury around her. She realizes what a tiny hole her previous home was. Ordinary workers in a place like this probably earn more, but she turns away. Now she is the Duke's granddaughter. She shouldn't think like that. Rogan says it's too early to worry. They haven't even arrived at the castle yet. The girl agrees, and she reminds herself that as an aristocrat, she needs to be elegant. Rogan replies that she should start with herself, and he would offer to tidy up her hair. The girl is surprised. She says her mother taught her that true elegance comes from within, not from external details. Rogan smiles, comes closer and sits down next to her, causing Hilda to flinch. Looking at him, she thinks, he's too handsome. Her heart won't be able to take it if he keeps coming at her unexpectedly. And why does he smell so good? Rogan takes out a comb and asks her not to turn around. He's about to comb her hair. Hilda says it's tangled. He replies that he knows. The girl admits she's embarrassed. But when he starts combing her hair, she feels it. He does it surprisingly gently. She wants to praise him. He's really doing well. After my mother left this world, no one combed her hair like that. She asks if he's ever combed anyone's hair. He says he has. Hilda is shocked. How many girls has he had? He asks her to look straight ahead, otherwise her hair will get tangled again. He then adds that he had a dog with long hair. Hilda is stunned. Is he really comparing her to a dog? He replies that he was simply answering a question. Hilda doesn't know whether to be offended or to breathe a sigh of relief. The guy finishes his hair and says it's done. The lady looks at her smooth hair and is surprised. It turned out great. She asks if there's anything he's bad at. Does he have any weaknesses? Rogan replies no. Hilda sighs. How pathetic. But she's sure she'll find his weakness one day. It will be fair. The girl asks if she will see other relatives, since her mother had brothers and a sister. Rogan says yes, but they're in the townhouse now. The Duke has already received his report, meaning he's waiting for them at the residence. Hilda asks if her relatives know she's coming. Rogan replies no. She clarifies, meaning she'll only see the Duke today. He asks if she finds it unpleasant. Hilda says yes and no. The Viscount advises not to be upset. It is better if she does not see them yet. No one will be happy to see her there. Hilda asks if he has to say that. What if they like her? The guy replies that there's hope, but he falls silent. Silence hangs in the air. Hilda turns and reminds herself not to give up. At the very least, the Duke will be glad to see her. It all depends on whether she's received her mother's powers. She'll soon find out. The castle is close. Looking at the castle, the girl thinks how beautiful it looks. Rogan opens the door for her and warns her to be careful, holding out his hand. The heroine feels like the heroine of a novel and pulls herself together. You can't act like a country girl and look around with your mouth open. Soon the servants greet her. The girl feels awkward. Being bowed to feels strange. Perhaps aristocrats always feel this way. The Viscount asks if the Duke has arrived. The servants say yes, he is in the library. His lordship ordered the guests to be brought into a small reception room. Hilda thinks, so this is a small reception room? It turns out there's a larger one too. This means that she does not yet deserve to be received in the big room. She asks if they treat her like this. Can she at least go to the bathroom? Everyone is surprised. She wonders, did she really say it too bluntly? Hilda smiles and clarifies that she's not even allowed in the bathroom. Then she says it's fine. She'll be patient. She doesn't want to embarrass anyone. The butler bows and says that the lady may, of course, take a bath, and he will show her to the changing room. As the girl is about to leave, Rogan suddenly takes her hand. She turns around and asks what happened. He comes closer, and he whispers that she should tell him immediately if the servants treat her badly. Hilda is surprised. Is he really worried? But Rogan says he warned her. She might not be treated kindly in this house. She replies that she knows, and asks if he thinks that if she is offended, she will remain silent. The boy recalls how she beat up the nobility and reminds him that it's forbidden to hit servants. Hilda asks if he considers her some kind of bandit. Rogan remains silent, but his gaze makes it clear that he thinks so. Later, the girl enters the bathtub and looks around in amazement. It's gorgeous. One bottle costs as much as her monthly salary. She touches the water. Rogan scared her so much. She thought the water would be cold, but no. The servants poured hot water. She sighed with relief. As she lies down in the bath, she thinks, this is the life of an aristocrat. It's simply wonderful to be one of them. No matter what happens, she will definitely become an aristocrat. But suddenly someone comes in and apologizes. Hilda screams. The maid asks if she needs help. The girl says no, but thanks her. The maid replies that she'll be in the next room. If she needs anything, she can call. The girl agrees. When the maid leaves, Hilda wonders, was there really a door there? And where did it come from? The girl jumped up. It was dangerous to linger here. You never know who else might come in. Peering behind the screen, she discovers that her clothes are missing. Panicking, she asks where they went. Hilda notices a dress on the shelf and thinks, is this really what she should wear? The main character thinks that she should have said it right away, otherwise she would have definitely imagined something unnecessary. After a while, she puts on the dress but realizes that it is too big. It's impossible to go out in this. It's better to wear a sack. If the dress doesn't hold up, it just falls off. The lady screams and calls the maid for help. When the maid comes in, she asks what happened. Hilda says the dress is huge and asks where her clothes went. The maid, confused, replies that she has already sent the things to the laundry. Hilda asks where her suitcase is and hears that the things from it have gone there too. The lady is indignant that she was not even warned and asks if there are any smaller clothes. The maid offers the maid's clothes and asks if she should bring them. Hilda feels as if the maid is deliberately irritating her. She wonders if there really isn't a single suitable dress in the entire duchy. The lady asks if the Duke really ordered her not to be given clothes, but the maid explains that it's the opposite. He ordered her to be dressed, but there just aren't any in the right size right now. Hilda is surprised, and the maid says that during the visiting season, all the dresses are in the townhouse. The girl is silent, then asks the maid's name. She replies that her name is Dorothy, Hilda understands that Dorothy is her first filter, and she clearly does not want a commoner to pretend to be an aristocrat. The lady says she needs other clothes and asks Dorothy to bring them, deciding not to back down. After a while, Hilda comes to Rogan, who is peacefully reading a book. But, seeing the lady's outfit, the guy is surprised and asks what kind of clothes these are. Hilda replies that she doesn't know, and suggests asking the maid who sent her clothes to the wash. The Viscount asks if she really had no other option, since she wore this. She's silent. The guy tells her to wait and says he'll send someone over immediately for some decent clothes. Hilda refuses. It's already evening, the shops are closed. The guy wants to object, but she assures him that the Duke, seeing her like this, will understand that she is not from here. Rogan apologizes and promises to report to the Duke so that the maids can be punished. Hilda says no need. She'll handle it herself this time. When Rogan asks about her plan, she replies that she'll think about it later. She suggests they go. The Duke is waiting, after all. The Viscount sighs, but comes closer. He straightens her clothes and admits that he is not sure whether he should go like this. He's afraid the Duke won't like it. Hilda asks if he'll send her to eternal sleep for dressing like that. The guy is silent, and the girl says that the Duke most likely just wants to test her strength. Sometime later, the lady enters the Duke's office. He, seeing her, says that Rutia's daughter has arrived. She bows and introduces herself as Hilda Roos. The man asks what happened to her clothes, since he ordered them to give her good ones. The girl explains that the dress was too big. The Duke asks if she's not ashamed to come dressed in men's clothing. She replies that since there's no dress in her size, she's not. The man asks if it turns out that the maid gave her men's clothing and she accepted it calmly. Hilda replies that she asked for it herself, better this way than a maid's dress. After all, she came as his granddaughter. But the Duke says that won't do. Rogan intervenes and admits it was his oversight. The Duke TSKED and remarked that the girl looked very much like her mother. Hilda wasn't sure if it was a compliment, but she thanks him and says she's heard it often. The man replies that it means she'll take after her mother by force. He sighs and tells her to come and sit down. Hilda breathes a sigh of relief, realizing he didn't attach any importance to clothing. The Duke asks if she heard from Strauss what a great sorceress her mother was. Hilda replies that she did, but she's never seen magic. The man says that in 100 years, no one has been born with such powers. And she knows that the foundation of the empire is magic. The greater the power, the more noble the family. Hilda knows this, even though she grew up a commoner. The imperial family founded Melbourne. They wielded immense power, and the aristocrats were their descendants. But their power has weakened, and now there are almost no powerful mages among the nobility. The girl heard rumors about this in the tavern. They even said that the emperor's heir might not have magic, or that he might not be his son at all. The Duke says that if she proves that she has the blood of a true aristocrat in her veins, he will accept her into the family. Hilda asks how to prove it. Learn magic and show it? The man says there is a faster way and suggests looking away. She sees a scroll. The Duke asks if she can read it. Hilda worries. If she can't, will she not be accepted? The man explains that these are runes, the language of magic. He recites a spell. Hilda repeats it, and both men are shocked. She doesn't understand why they react this way. The Viscount asks if she can repeat it again. She says she's not that stupid. He explains that those without magic can't repeat runes. They only hear noise. Hilda asks in admiration if she really has magical abilities. She says they should have told her sooner. She's been so worried. But the Duke points out that even those with weak powers can read runes. And if her strength is at a minimum, they will not be able to accept her into the family. Hilda asks what else needs to be done. The Duke replies, she must spend the night at the castle. The girl is surprised and asks what else is needed. The Duke says nothing more. She's shocked. Is it really just a matter of spending the night? It couldn't be easier. But later, standing in front of the castle, she says that it looks like ghosts are about to fly out of it. The guy replies that it will be so. The lady is horrified. Is she being sent to the ghosts? Rogan clarifies that he is talking about evil spirits. Hilda realizes she'd be better off spending the night even in the ruins. She sees no connection between magic and a house full of spirits. She thinks the world is unfair. The day before, she asked what castle the Duke was referring to. Rogan sighed and offered her some tea, to which she agreed. He explained that the nightlock has been used in puberty ceremonies for centuries. It's located in the east of Melbourne. Hilda asks if it's really necessary to spend the night there. She thought things were simpler for aristocrats. But the guy said no. Hilda asked if he could read her mind. He said he could tell from her eyes. And he said that at night, evil spirits appear, spirits of the highest rank, and magic is needed to fight them. Hilda sighed, deciding it was all too complicated, and asked what this had to do with growing up. Rogan explained, the stronger the magic, the higher the lineage. Spirits obey the strong. The lady asks if spending the night means she's a powerful sorceress. The young man says yes. Then she asks what if she's not strong enough. The Viscount replies that, according to the records, the weak can fall into eternal sleep, go mad, or take their own lives. Hilda asks him to repeat it. Does that really happen now? The guy replies that it hasn't happened for a long time. The girl sighs, meaning the danger isn't so great. But the young man says there are no more powerful mages, so the ceremony has been canceled. Hilda is shocked. Does the Duke send his granddaughter, whom he barely knows, to such a place? Rogan says she can refuse. She asks if that means giving up the title. He remains silent. After a pause, the guy says that Rusia spent a whole week there. Hilda is amazed and realizes that she should be happy. She is only being asked to stay for the night. But later she lies down and admits to herself that she doesn't understand anything. If she knew at least one spell, she would worry less. The guy said that if her powers were truly great, she'd quickly master 1 or 2 spells. She asked if that was true. He explained that magicians are divided into categories. He himself belongs to the sound category and uses a special kind of magic. He casts a spell, and Hilda is amazed by the sound of the magic. But a moment later, he realizes he can't speak. When he snaps his fingers and breaks the spell, he explains that this is his power. Hilda says she thought magic looked more beautiful and brighter. She asks how to find out her category. The guy says you have to try. The girl replies that such advice is of little use and asks what category her mother belonged to. The guy says Rusia belonged to the water element and often used freezing. The lady asks if she too is a water element, but the Viscount says that it is not inherited. It all depends on character. Hilda remembers her mother's words and realizes that she has heard about this before. Mom said that water seemed soft, but it could cut through iron and move earth, and that this power suited her. The main character wonders how it happened that Rogan is a sound mage. Maybe it's because he loves teaching others. She asks what the most powerful spell for the water category is. The guy thinks about it. He spills the tea and admits that he can't do what her mother could. But he casts the spell anyway, and the water rises slightly. Hilda is delighted. She excitedly asks if he'll teach her. He says you need to feel the energy and channel it. Hilda asks how. He replies that you need to try again and again. That's the only way it will work. Hilda decides to try, repeats the spell, but nothing works. She tries again, but fails again. She asks if it's possible she has no strength at all. Hilda says magic can't be learned in a day, and she truly wants a lot. But the guy insists that the lady should think about her character. Hilda asks what kind of man he is, and the young man casts the main spell made of fire. He says that if the lady wants to see sparks, she should try again. Hilda repeats, but nothing happens. She sighs and says she warned me. She has no strength. But suddenly she feels something strange in her body and tries to understand what is happening. It's as if she's starting to boil. The guy jumps up and calls out to the lady. He grabs her and asks if everything is okay. Hilda assures her that it is. She then notices a blue flame on the floor and asks what it was. They try to put it out, and the lady realizes that magical fire is not so easily extinguished. The fire only goes out when the furniture is completely consumed. On the day of his departure, the boy sighs. It was difficult to put out. Hilda realizes that he is thinking the same thing as she is, and asks if this proves her strength. The guy confirms it's a good sign. The lady says there's no need to worry. She just remembered something. Mom said something about a night castle. The boy asks joyfully if Rusia really left a clue. Hilda replies that her mother only said one thing. When he enters the castle, let him smash everything with his fist. The lady assures him that she carried several mugs at a time in the tavern, so she has the strength. The guy isn't too happy, but asks her not to lose heart. Then he smiles and says that he hopes for her safe return. Hilda feels like she's going to war and thanks him. She enters the castle and apologizes for the intrusion. She looks around and notices that she expected to see something more beautiful. As she climbs the stairs, she thinks it's too dark. The lady sees the portrait and tries to understand if it is the owner. Moving on, she decides that there is nothing to worry about so far, and that she was worried in vain. She speeds up, deciding to go to bed as quickly as possible. She will fall asleep faster, wake up faster. Hilda wonders where the bedroom is and, looking out the window, notices darkness. Then she sees Rogan's cart and wonders why he's still there and if he's worried about her. She wonders if he will stand there all night and wait to see if everything is okay, and she wonders if he really doesn't believe in her. And suddenly someone asks what she's looking at. Hilda turns around, trying to figure out who's there. Then someone approaches from behind. The creature asks if she can't use magic. Hilda is shocked and screams. She tries to figure out where it is and asks not to joke with her. At that moment, someone grabs her hand and says that he will cut it off and eat it. Another monster declares it will take her hair. Hilda doesn't understand what's happening. Suddenly, she notices something that looks like a ferret and follows it. She decides that she needs to catch at least one first to understand the situation. But suddenly, the monster grabs her by the hand and pulls her down the stairs. Hilda falls. The lamp breaks and her arm is injured. She thinks it couldn't get any worse. It's dark and painful. One of the monsters laughs, calling her silly, and says that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Hilda is angry. She's hurt, she's scared, and they're laughing. She just wants to become an aristocrat and live a peaceful life, but something keeps getting in the way. She thinks that a good grandfather would not send his granddaughter to such a place, and he wouldn't have told the servants that she grew up among commoners. The spirits wouldn't have mocked her like that either. A handsome viscount wouldn't have behaved so strangely, and she would have known exactly whose side he was on. And anyway, why should she have to prove anything to anyone? She realizes that her mother is Arpeggio, and she is this woman's daughter. The monster reaches out to her again. Hilda grabs him and throws him aside. The monster screams, calling her crazy, and the others suggest running away. But Hilda raises her hand and asks where they are going. She decides that's enough talking, and he turns on his fists. The night in the castle is just beginning. Meanwhile, the guy by the carriage sighs. He understands that commoners and inexperienced aristocrats never approach this place at night. He thinks that it was a mistake to let her go. She had barely started learning magic, and it was a bad idea. But suddenly, he sees a bright light in the windows and wonders where it comes from. Looking at the mansion, he can't understand what's going on there. Inside, monsters are trembling in the corner. One asks how this is possible, since the lady does not possess magic. Another one says that he is scared because she is not stupid, she has just gone crazy. Hilda walks down the hallway and asks where they're hiding. She says if they come out now, they'll get 1 hit. If not, 10. One spirit offers to apologize, but the other says that they just need to wait until dawn. The third one remembers that Ruzia lived there for a week and asks what will happen if this girl stays there for just as long. Then he notices how similar they are. All three are shocked. One asks if Ruzia ever had blonde hair. The other replies that it's just a normal color. Hilda notices the monsters and they squeal. She says that because of them she couldn't go to bed earlier and had to walk around the castle. Later she sits and asks Puma if he's okay with waving his paws. He apologizes. Hilda thinks that the night lock is just a joke because she was so worried. She looks at the others and asks them not to stand there so frightened. She asks if they can't take human form and why they're completely naked. The monster explains. If they were spirits of a higher rank, they could, but they don't have enough strength. Hilda frowns and asks if that means they can't heal her wound. Puma replies that only good spirits can heal. The girl says that they are of little use, and the monsters apologize. Hilda says she heard they torture people without magic and thought they had it. She asks if they can do anything at all. One monster snaps back that she needs to grow up first, and that she can't even properly use magic. Hilda gets angry and tells him to think about what he says. She warns him that she doesn't yet have control over her power and could accidentally fry him. The other spirit changes the subject and offers to teach her magic. Another one assures her that he will train her in 4 months, no matter how inexperienced she is, and boasts about his fire category. Hilda asks if he's serious. Even if he can't turn into a human, people will run away. The monster doesn't understand what she's talking about. The lady reminds him that the training lasts 4 months, which means he must go with her. She doesn't want to live in this crumbling castle. But the monster says that spirits cannot leave the castle without a contract. Hilda asks if this is true. Puma explains that yes, they share power, and man gives them the opportunity to serve. It is beneficial for both sides. Hilda is surprised that she doesn't have to sell her soul for this. He assures her that they're not that evil. She asks why her mother didn't sign the contract then. The monster asks who her mother is. The lady says Rucha Rus or Rucha Arpeggio. The spirits cry out in shock. She is the blood of the mad Rucha. Hilda asks not to rush to conclusions and asks what her mother did. They say she bullied them and made them hop around like rabbits. Wall to wall, Hilda asks if they really backed out of the contract. The monster says no. Rusia simply doubted that she could handle pets. Hilda thinks it's strange to hear this, because they don't look at all harmless. She says okay, but he can't go with her like that. The monster assures her he won't become human, but he can shapeshift. Hilda asks what forms. The wolf transforms. She opens her eyes, and she sees the puppy. The monster asks if she can see it. It's perfect camouflage. Hilda picks him up and tells him how cute he is. The monster screams that this is too much. But the lady declares that she's ready to sign a contract with such a cute puppy. The monster indignantly reminds him that he is a strong wolf, but Hilda asks him to come with her. After a while, Rogan asks who it is. Hilda replies it's a puppy. He wonders why she brought him. The lady says she will raise him. Rogan is stunned, and Hilda explains they signed a contract. He asks if it's a puppy. The monster is indignant, asks not to call him a puppy, and repeats that he is a strong wolf. Hilda calms him down and says that this is the spirit of Ma, with whom she made a contract, and he will teach her magic. Rogan says that in old records there are magicians who made contracts with the spirits of Ma. He thinks they should keep it a secret. Hilda asks why. Would the Duke really object? The Viscount reminds her that her task was simply to spend the night in the castle, and there was no need to talk about the contract. Hilda agrees, not wanting any extra attention. But she wonders why Rogan is so against it. She suggests that perhaps he doesn't want the Duke to acknowledge her as his granddaughter, or that a commoner shouldn't have power, or that she'll bring disaster to the duchy. The boy replies that yes, that's exactly what he's afraid of. He asks the lady to give him the puppy so that he can look after it until the Duke makes his decision. Hilda realizes that this is exactly how it will be, and she can't understand what she was hoping for. She asks the Viscount if he returned last night, and he confirms that he was there. The girl wants to understand why he was there and whether the Duke really ordered him to follow her. The guy remains silent, and then the lady turns around and declares that she will keep the puppy for herself, since the Viscount does not have enough strength and the baby will be safe with her. Hilda thinks that even though Rogan is her grandfather's man, does he really have to watch her all the time? The more she thinks, the angrier she becomes. Later, she enters the Duke's office. The man admits that he didn't have much hope and is surprised that she succeeded. He invites her to sit down, and the lady gets angry and assumes that the Viscount has already reported everything. But the Duke asks if she's talking about Strauss, since he hasn't even invited him yet. The girl asks how he knows about her success. The man explains that he had appointed an observer in advance. Otherwise, how would he have been sure that she was telling the truth? Hilda wonders why Rogan behaved so strangely then, and whether it was his loyalty that made him spend the night at the castle. She even suggests that he is like a slave and asks the Duke not to treat the Viscount in this way. If he had appointed a watchman, he should have warned the Viscount not to stand at the castle all night. The Duke says that Strauss knew about the observer and is surprised that he didn't tell her anything. Hilda is shocked and tormented by the question of why Rogan stood under lock and key all night. She thinks that maybe he was worried about her and she didn't even know it. The lady remembers how she allowed herself to make a sarcastic remark towards him without even understanding the situation, and she feels ashamed. The Duke praises her for surviving the night, and Hilda thanks him. He says she deserves to become an arpeggio, and now she must learn magic. Hilda senses he views her not as a granddaughter, but as a valuable ally. The girl asks if this means that she will now officially become part of the family. The Duke confirms this and says that he has already ordered the room to be prepared and is going to enter it into the register and then present it to the Emperor and the entire family. He tells her to study hard so that no one will realize that she grew up among commoners. He explains that she needs to prove her belonging to Arpeggio not only with her talents, but also with her manners, speech, and gait. The Duke rises and wishes her to enjoy the life of an aristocrat. Hilda thinks she has finally become who she dreamed of being. She still can't believe it was so simple. All she had to do was get the Duke's recognition. But even though she was recognized not by blood, but by her abilities, she feels empty inside. Hilda asks about a reward, because this time she really tried. The man is surprised, and she says she wants 2 awards. The Duke invites her to speak. The lady declares that she wants the Night Castle to be hers. She understands that the building is abandoned and of no use to anyone, so there shouldn't be any problems. If you ask for another lock, there will be conflicts in the family, but no one will definitely cling to this one. Besides, owning the castle will confirm her magical abilities, since she has nothing else to boast about, and this will benefit her. The Duke understands her logic and asks if she really wants the Night Castle, since formally it belongs to the Empire. Hilda says she heard they don't hold ceremonies there anymore, so they don't need it. If she offers to buy it, they'll give it to her for half price. The Duke promises to think about it and asks about the second reward. The girl recalls what irritated her since her arrival. She wants to talk to the servants because the maid took her things and chose her clothes, and the lady intends to show who is the boss in the house. Later, Hilda asks if everyone is here, and the servants reply that they are, except for those in the capital. She doesn't care about them. She asks if they heard about her on the day of their arrival. Then her things were taken to the wash, which caused trouble, and she realized that the servants would not leave her alone. They also tried to force her to wear the clothes of a servant, sending her to the Duke. The maid who delivered the things justifies herself by saying that it was a mistake. But Hilda asks who gave her the right to interrupt her mistress, and reminds her that there is no excuse for them getting into her bag. The maid falls to the floor, asks for forgiveness, and swears that it will not happen again. Hilda asks if she is truly sorry, and she says that she is, because she committed a grave offense. The girl says she'll give Dorothy a chance. She understands that it's not only Dorothy's fault, she simply followed the lead of others. Dorothy has the lowest status, and someone else must have come up with the plan. It was most likely Henry's maid. Hilda says she'll give everyone a chance. The one who took the bag, the one who returned the things, and the one who watched and reported. If they were involved in any way, they have until midnight to apologize, and then she will forgive them. The maids begin to talk among themselves, and the lady adds, each one who confesses will receive 10 coins. She understands that the amount is small, but for maids it is not bad. For this money they can even show off in the tavern, but the main thing is that for 10 coins, they will not betray their relationship with the elder. Then she says that the most important conversation is ahead, because for informing on the servants, 20 coins will be deducted, and if they don't come before midnight, then 50. Hilda notices that everyone is looking at each other, because 50 coins is half of their salary, but that's not all. She declares that the last one to arrive will be fired, and tells everyone to think seriously. Then she remembers something else. She needs to remind her that the Duke approved of her decision, and there is no point in going to complain to him. Later, she tells Rogan what she did while sitting in the reception area waiting for the maids. Dorothy arrived first, and Hilda forgave her as promised. But for the next 2 hours, no one showed up. Rogan asks if the others will come, believing that the pride of the aristocratic servants is too great. Hilda says that she already understood this, but she will still wait. They need time to think things through. She understands that they are watching each other, but it only takes one for the others to waver. If one comes, the others will think that they were reported. The more people come, the more pressure is put on those who didn't show up. And suddenly there's a knock. Hilda realizes it started. She orders them in. Rogan is amazed. Hilda managed to carry out her plan. 2 maids arrive together, and rumors immediately spread. One claims she merely delivered the bag, unaware of the plan. Another says she was preparing clothes, and a third blames Henry, who insisted there were no other dresses. Everyone starts laying out the details, and Hilda sighs. They should have come one by one, but this way it turned out boring. Later there is another knock, and the girl tells you to come in. A red-haired maid appears, admits her guilt, and asks to punish only her and forgive the others. Hilda considers this a worthy act. The worst person took the blame for the sake of others. The woman says she knows how guilty she is, and the lady explains that she has already been reported. 20 coins will be deducted from her salary, and Hilda asks if she agrees. The maid asks if that's all. Hilda says yes. Henry asks again if this is all true, and the lady confirms. She asks if the lady would have forgiven her if she had come first, and Hilda says yes. A promise is a promise. After midnight, everyone would have lost 50 coins anyway. The maid realizes this girl thought she was going to be fired, but she leaves silently. Others appear after her. Hilda believes Henry pushed them. The Viscount watches and worries that the lady has made too harsh a decision, but he understands that she did the right thing. Even Henry left confused. He finds it strange. Later, someone notices that the girl made a lot of noise. She's only been in Arpeggio's house for a week, and already she's acting her own way. The Viscount says there wasn't much noise, but the man insists. If even he heard it, it must be serious. Rogan wonders if the servants are reporting him. The Duke asks what Hilda plans to do with Henry. The Viscount says she ordered 20 coins deducted. The man believes that the punishment is lenient, but reasonable. The main thing is that Tarina doesn't make an enemy of her. Rogan isn't so sure about that. He knows that Henry serves the Duke's wife, Tarina, and if Henry were fired, Tarina would see Hilda as an enemy immediately. The Duke orders the Viscount to teach the girl because there is no better teacher. Rogan asks if he's the one in question. The Duke insists they're already friends, but the boy demurs. The man says he knows Rogan is not the type to scheme. Then he asks to give the letter to Graham. It is for the Emperor. Rogan asks if it concerns Hilda. The Duke says yes. She needs to be added to the house register. He is glad that Rusha's daughter is so similar to her, and says that if she had taken after her useless father, nothing would have come of it. Later, Rogan is walking down the hallway and thinks that it would hurt Hilda to hear that. Then he realizes she probably would have just flipped the table over. Maybe he should have answered the Duke. Stopping at the window, he wonders whether he has the right to change something because of his feelings. Unlike other girls, Hilda talks a lot, expresses emotions vividly, and sometimes even switches to slang. The guy doesn't understand what could possibly attract him to her. Then he enters the room and sees Hilda. The girl examines her legs and wonders why they hurt so much. Rogan notes this. He understands that she lacks aristocratic grace, but this light, lively image suits her surprisingly well. At that moment, she notices someone quietly enter the room and head towards Rogan. She asks if he's finished his business and hears that he has. Then the lady asks what he's doing here. Hilda says she came to apologize. The guy is surprised, but she assures him it's true. That night, she said she was tired, but he was waiting for her, worried. The Viscount asks her not to think about it, but Hilda wants to know why. She admits she got it all wrong. The guy says that if he had been ordered to follow her, he would have done so. Hilda replies that it doesn't matter anymore. The main thing is that she's grateful. He was worried about her, but the guy reminds him that he simply serves the Duke and will carry out any order, even to kick her out. The lady says that this will happen later, but now she is grateful for his concern. He didn't receive orders, but he stayed anyway. Rogan feels uneasy. He believes that Hilda is not suitable for high society, no matter what his thoughts may be. But she entered the Duke's house herself, and someone needs to help her stay there. Hilda tells the Viscount that simple words of apology are not enough. And if he has time, he asks if he would like to go for a walk with her. He says it's late, but the lady just smiles. She assures them that now is the time. A little later, they are sitting at the table. The brunette looks at the dish and asks if she made it herself. The lady confirms. She says it's her secret apple pie, made with a special recipe. Hilda decided to apologize to Rogan this way and chose the dish that she cooks best. When she made a trial version, the chef even wrote down the recipe. She learned how to make the pie from her dad, so the Viscount should definitely like it. But the guy says there's no need to try so hard. Hilda asks why, but he remains silent at first, and then becomes indignant. An aristocrat should not cook for herself. He advises her to delegate this to the maids next time, as the cooks might be offended. But Hilda insists that they ate the pie as eagerly as if they were waiting for more. When he wants to scold her again, she asks him to stop. When he starts eating, the lady thinks that it is much better this way. Let him enjoy it in peace. Rogan asks if the pie is really her apology. She replies that he's right. He tells her she shouldn't show off such talents. At this point, he notices a new aroma and asks if it is cinnamon. Hilda confirms, happy that he recognized her. Rogan adds that he smells something else besides apples. She says there are dates in the tea. The guy is surprised. It's the first time he's had such tea. Hilda explains that she dried apples this morning and made date extract. He asks if it was just for 1 cup. The lady replies that yes, she wanted to show how sorry she is. He repeats that there is no need to apologize because he is only following orders. Hilda thinks it used to irritate her, but now she understands that it makes it easier for Rogan to keep his distance. But he is not the kind of person to put pressure on her, so she can trust him. He says that she should no longer invite the maids to the table and cook herself. But if he wants a special dish, let him tell him. Hilda thinks he probably liked the pie after all. He adds that if she doesn't understand anything, she can always ask him. He will help her get used to it. The lady asks if this is the Duke's order, but he remains silent. Then she asks if he is on her side. She understands that the straightforward Rogan will not give the answer she expects and will only speak of orders. But he adds, if this doesn't contradict His Highness's orders, then he will be on her side. The girl rejoices and asks if this means they've made peace and are now friends. He smiles and says that he hasn't thanked her yet. The pie was the most delicious in his life. After a while, he comes out of the bathroom and thinks that he didn't mean to hurt her. When he was eating pie, There was no difference in status between them. Now he wants to be on her side. In a world of intrigue, he simply wants the lady to remain kind, honest, and strong, although he himself couldn't keep it to himself. After some time, the maid wakes her. Hilda asks for another 5 minutes, but Dorothy reminds her that Ostrich is waiting and told her to wake her up. The lady thinks how much he loves to grumble. Dorothy brings water and asks if she needs help getting dressed. Hilda replies that she can handle it herself. She is not used to such help. Lately, she has been learning to be an aristocrat and mastering magic. After becoming part of the Duke's family, she began to address Rogan by his first name. Now she calls him by his first name. Rogan asks if she's there yet. She wonders why he's so cheerful this morning. She asks if he gets enough sleep. He replies that he sleeps enough. The lady asks how many hours. He says, 4. She replies that this way he will quickly go into eternal sleep. He says he'll sleep more when she becomes a true lady of the duchy. Hilda takes a hint. It's because of her. He puts a stack of books on the table and says it's time to begin. He asks the lady to sit up straight, but she is lazy. The wolf intervenes and asks why she needs to study if she already has the strength. Hilda replies that strength is needed to be an aristocrat, but she does not want to learn it. The wolf says she has no ambitions, but they are important. The girl asks what kind exactly. The puppy replies, for example, take over the world. The lady laughs. He continues, there is a spell that can build and destroy cities in a day. There is a pause, and the lady asks Rogan what he thinks, but he doesn't understand what she means. Hilda says, what if she becomes the great sorceress? But the wolf says she could burn down the empire. She wonders if the grumpy guy can hear how strong she is and asks him to speak more softly if he doesn't want the end of the world. Rogan says that even great abilities are useless if you're not accustomed to magic. Lady is indignant at his smile. The Viscount is surprised. Did she ever say she didn't want to study? The lady insists she very much does and asks if he doesn't believe her. He indifferently replies that he believes. The lady gets angry. She shouts to the puppy that, since he is a great magician, he should teach her properly. Hilda decides that she will prove herself to everyone. She will become a great sorceress and make Rogan respect her. After a while, she sighs, and the puppy asks if she hasn't figured it out yet. The lady asks why the magic isn't working. The wolf reminds us that the runette is the language of magic, and the world is like a person with whom we need to learn to talk. He shouts again, trying to make the lady feel strong and believe in herself. She shouts back that she doesn't know how or why he's yelling at his mistress. The Viscount raises his hand and suggests finishing. The puppy is clearly not little anymore. Hilda is surprised they managed to become friends. The boy says that to unlock his powers, he needs to remember and try again. She says that last time was unsuccessful. Everything got out of control and it was scary. But he reminds her that she used magic in the castle at night. Let her remember the sensations. The puppy supports, let her remember what she felt. Fear, curiosity, or courage. The lady thinks and realizes that she felt discontent. They grabbed her by the arms and lifted her up. Silence ensued. The wolf asks why people are increasingly using force. The boy replies that only his mistress knows. The lady is angry. Now she has 2 grumblers. But at that moment, she begins to feel something and grabs her chest. She feels like everything inside is on fire. The wolf says that magic starts in the head, and he shouts for her to read the spell immediately. Hilda asks if it is really necessary now and wonders if this vibration is her power. She's afraid she'll start another fire. At that moment, Rogan takes her hand and calms her down. If something goes wrong, they'll cope. Let her try. The lady decides, good. She remembers the night in the castle and gets ready. All she needs is one thing. To feel discontent and let it out. She starts to cast a spell and realizes that it worked. But he can't stop, he becomes scared. The Viscount wants to intervene, but the wolf shouts at him not to dare. The lady feels her power fading. It's strange. She thought she couldn't control magic. The wolf explains that her power is too great to control even simple spells. She asks if he stopped her. He confirms, and he says he'll control her power so the lady can use it fully without worry. Hilda thinks the puppy is even better than he seemed. He replies that he's already told her this and assures her he can enhance her magic. Hilda is touched and decides that as a reward, they'll take a walk by the river today. Later, she is alone with Rogan and asks what they will study. The guy notices how she's sitting and asks her to sit up straight. Hilda sighs and says that there's no one here. A moment later, he announces that today they will dismantle the Duchy's family tree and also the family history, because if a lady belongs to the highest circles, then her family history must be worthy. Hilda is surprised because she will have to know even those who lived 300 years ago. She wonders if it's worth remembering at all, since they have long since turned to dust. But Rogan says there's no future without a past. Hilda again finds herself thinking that he's handsome and speaks well, which is why she likes him. Then she suggests starting with living relatives, because the present is much more interesting than old tales. The guy agrees and begins to explain there are currently 6 people in the family, not counting Duke Arpeggio himself. She's already been with him for 7 years. He suggests starting with Terina Arpeggio, the Duke's wife and former Marchioness of Galeta. Hilda asks if this is her grandmother and receives confirmation. Terina is His Highness's second wife. Hilda realizes she might dislike her right away. Since they're not blood relatives, that's a whole new headache. Rogan says that Terina's biological son is Fred Arpeggio, who is 3 years younger than Hilda. Hilda remembers the clothes she was wearing and realizes they were his. Even without seeing him, she already feels a strange connection. The guy continues, there is also a firstborn, Fiore Arpeggio, Ruzia's twin, Cleo Arpeggio, and Fiore's child, Timo Arpeggio, her cousin, and Fiore's wife, Ortigia. Hilda asks him to wait, as he speaks too quickly, as if he's about to list all 300 relatives at once. Rogan wonders if he's in a hurry, but reminds her that she has an exam tomorrow and needs to learn everything. Hilda doesn't understand what exam they're talking about and asks for a minute to come to her senses. She clarifies that the exam will be right away, and he asks if she can't learn everything in one day. Hilda gets angry and says that she is not a genius like him. The guy offers 2 days. She replies that he needs 5. That's how they bargain. And they stop at 4. Rogan still wonders why they can't learn it in a day. And Hilda, looking at the books, thinks how this is even possible. She asks if anyone will be happy about her arrival. The guy replies, no, it would be better if no one paid any attention. Hilda understands that she is meeting her family for the first time, and they already consider her a nuisance. She asks why they should avoid her, since she will definitely not become the Duke's heir. But the guy says no one knows. When she becomes an aristocrat, the question of an heir will become more pressing. Hilda clarifies, won't the eldest son become the heir? Rogan replies that the Duke hasn't chosen anyone yet. Then Hilda realizes she is the daughter of the eldest daughter of Rusia Arpeggio, and also with the strongest magical abilities. So she could become a threat, and her appearance is a problem for everyone. Hilda doesn't know what to do. But she calms down. Everyone will return only in a month, which means she has time. Later, she walks down the street with a puppy. She yawns and suggests going back, but notices the cart and wonders if someone has arrived. The puppy notices that, judging by the amount of luggage, this is clearly not a guest. Hilda is confused about who it is and decides to go inside, because Rogan will grumble again if they are late. She adds that he'll soon develop wrinkles from constant scolding. At that moment, someone calls out to her and says they've finally found it. The girl is surprised by what happened, and the butler asks to give him the dog. He needs to be washed. He promises to explain everything later. Hilda assumes it's connected to the arrival of someone important. She is curious about what is going on and allows the puppy to be taken. She says goodbye to him and hopes that he will understand that she needs to find out what is going on and then report to her. After a while, she sees things in the hallway and is surprised, because there are so many of them, as if someone is moving. She notices expensive dresses and realizes that she is afraid to wear them. The stones can fly off with one sharp movement, and Hilda thinks that these outfits are just for standing beautifully. At that moment, someone calls out to her, and when she turns around, she tries to understand who is in front of her. The guy suddenly hits her in the face. Hilda is shocked and doesn't understand why he did that. In front of her is a thin guy with white hair, brown eyes, and freckles. She's trying to figure out who he is. But he immediately decides that it doesn't matter. If he hit her, it means he's a scoundrel. Hilda hits him back. The boy screams, and the maid immediately runs up, asking if he's okay. He sharply tells her not to touch him, and then gets angry at Hilda and asks how dare she and if she knows who he is. Hilda is surprised because he hit her first. She says he got what he deserved and asks who he is to raise his hand against her. She is indignant. Even her parents didn't touch her face, and the guy gets even angrier. He shouts that she is a thief. Hilda only smirks, and she realizes he doesn't know how to swear. She puts her hand on his shoulder, and she warns that if he starts acting up, She will do unpleasant things to him. The guy is shocked. He doesn't believe that she is talking to him in such a tone. And then someone calls him Mr. Fred. Hilda is surprised and remembers the names. Could this really be the Duchess's son? She's trying to figure out which of them is higher in status. He's her mother's half-brother, so it turns out he's older. So, she just hit her own uncle and committed a terrible crime. Recently, she almost fell into eternal sleep. But even then, she didn't think she was capable of such a thing. Hilda immediately asks if everything is okay with him, even addressing him formally. But Fred yells at her not to touch him. She defends herself. How is she supposed to know they were related? But he's outraged that they could be a family and declares that he has no intention of sharing a last name with someone like her. Hilda then replies that he'll have to change it. Fred becomes even more indignant, and she asks why he even raised his hand to her. He yells that he punished the nasty girl who touched his things and that he did the right thing. Hilda asks when she touched his things and remembers that it might be about those clothes. She says the Count gave his permission and everything was washed. Fred is outraged that she could wear clothes that had been washed by her. He says that now the things can be thrown away, puts his hand on his face, and Hilda hopes that she didn't knock out his tooth. She asks if it hurts a lot and offers to look, but he yells at her not to touch. He raises his hand again, and Hilda realizes he is about to hit her. But she also has no right to touch him and is preparing to take the blow. At that moment, someone grabs Fred by the arm and tells him to stop. Fred is outraged. It's Rogan, and he asks him how dare he. The young man becomes even more enraged and hits the Viscount. Hilda is shocked. Meanwhile, the Duchess talks to the maid and learns that Hilda has cut the maid's wages, claiming to have received permission from the Count. The woman is indignant. He wouldn't give such power to a newcomer. This is Terina Arpeggio, the Duke's wife. She asks Henry's opinion, but the maid remains silent. Terina says the Duke didn't even interfere. After all, if the inferior ones interfere in other people's business, they get scars. The maid says Hilda couldn't have pulled off such a thing without the Duke's permission. Terina replies that she doesn't know, maybe she's just a naive little dog, or she's cunning, so it's better to consider her a little dog. The Duke can't stand stupidity, and it quickly irritates him. The real threat isn't Hilda, not a girl from the slums, surviving as best she could, and Ostrich, cunning as a fox, for some unknown reason, treats him like a son. And the Viscount will do everything for the Duke, even sacrifice himself. Terina asks if Strauss is keeping an eye on Hilda. The maid confirms. He's helping her settle in and teaching her. The Duchess is surprised by Strauss's cunning and asks how he managed to hide it from his family. Henry says that although the girl is Rusia's daughter, she still has the blood of a commoner in her. The maid asks if the Duchess will simply watch as Hilda enters the Arpeggio family. She replies that she warned. Anyone who interferes in the wrong place gets scars. And the lady, too, had better behave herself. Hilda now bears the surname Arpeggio. The maid understands. She herself comes from a respected family. Terina notes that Hilda is not dangerous yet, but others, more hot-tempered ones, will attack first. At this moment, the maid bursts in and shouts that something bad has happened. Fred and Hilda are fighting. Hilda looks at Rogan, confused as to why he took the hit. Fred yells at Rogan for not even dodging. Hilda thinks he's crazy. Fred hits him again, and Hilda screams at him to stop. The boy falls. The maids run to him, asking if he's okay. Hilda is shocked. Everyone just watches as they're beaten. Fred is almost in tears and demands to call his mother. Hilda is surprised. Is he really calling his mother? She asks if the baby wants his mother, and the guy doesn't understand what she's even talking about. The main character wonders if he is really so scared that he managed to act scared like a child because he is already an adult, but he still calls for his mother. She adds that he might also ask to change his diaper, but at that moment someone suddenly covers her mouth and she cannot continue. The girl realizes she's just getting the hang of it and he just goes and shuts her up. At this point, the Viscount turns to Hilda. He suggests they take a walk as they need to talk, but the heroine screams at him to let her go. She hasn't finished her sentence yet and was planning to set this guy straight. Rogan replies that she'll do it later. When he takes her away, the girl still shouts at the guy to watch his behavior because she is keeping an eye on him. The young man gets scared, and a little later, the main character admits that she was wrong. She didn't mean to do it, but that idiot hit Rogan, who had nothing to do with it, so she got angry. The guy asks her to raise her head because he wants to apply the ointment. Hilda says she is truly sorry, and the Viscount asks if it is true. She insists she didn't mean to put him in an awkward position. He replies that there was nothing awkward. She was the one who blew it all out of proportion, not him. Hilda is outraged at how callous he is, and the Viscount notes that Fred bows down to the strong and mocks the weak, especially over those she considers beneath her. Hilda agrees that's exactly what she thought. She regrets what happened to Rogan, but is still sure that she did the right thing because her mother taught her to stand up for herself. The guy says he half agrees, and the heroine asks, what about the other half? The Viscount points out that she shouldn't have been angry just because he was hit. Hilda remains silent. She then admits that she would like Rogan to be on her side, but she won't force him. She doesn't want him to sacrifice himself for her, so she will protect those who stand by her. The guy says she didn't protect him, but only made things worse. Hilda is disappointed because she said it so beautifully, but there was no reaction. He's so sweet on the outside, but he's freezing inside. Rogan reminds her he asked for ice and advises her to apply it to her cheek. Hilda refuses and says it's Rogan's turn. He insists he's fine, but Hilda grabs his face. As she applies the ointment, she wonders why his skin is so soft. Under the guise of helping, she can touch his face, and at least that is nice. She thinks what a scoundrel Fred is, because he ruined such a beautiful face, and she will remember him for this. At that moment, there is a knock on the door, someone comes inside, and everything changes. The main character asks what's wrong, since she was having such a good time. Dorothy informs her that the mistress is inviting the ladies to dinner. Hilda assumes that they are talking about the Count's wife and wonders if she is going to scold her for touching her precious son. The Viscount asks Hilda if she is ready, and the girl thinks that he is on her side. She replies that she's ready. A short time later, she enters the dining room. The woman invites her to come in and sit down, and the lady thanks her for the invitation. The Duchess asks if her name is Hilda, and she confirms it. At this moment, the guy next to her coughs, and the heroine wonders what kind of strange signal this is, after which she announces that she now goes by the name Arpeggio. Fred cries out, not understanding how she even dared. He is outraged that she could take the noble name of Arpeggio. The Duchess admonishes her son to observe etiquette. The young man wants to object, but she reminds him that this is the Duke's order. The guy asks how he could make such a decision without their consent. The Viscount wonders why the Duke had to ask their opinion. He adds that he said this only for clarity and asks whether Mr. Fred really wants to challenge the Count's decision. The guy replies that no, he is not going to argue. The Duchess asks for understanding, as her son is still young. The heroine is surprised that she calls him young. She remembers that she was already working at his age, but says out loud that she understands. The woman admits that she is surprised by the situation and heard that Hilda is Ruzia's daughter, but she's never seen her. Hilda replies that she understands, and the Duchess says she's not against her, since it's the Duke's decision. However, she would have liked to know about this before rumors started spreading, since she is the mistress of the house. The guy thinks it's a hint of aristocracy. He apologizes, saying he didn't mean to interfere in case he was wrong. The woman says that everything is clear, and the heroine thinks that such a conversation is much more interesting than fists. The Duchess asks what excuse Hilda will find for the conflict with Fred, but the girl says it's better to ask her son himself, since he struck first. The Viscount watches, perplexed. Fred can't take it anymore, jumps up and shouts that she touched his things first. Hilda replies that the Duke himself gave permission, and if he doesn't like something, he should tell him. And if he's afraid, maybe she should do it. He complains to his mother, asking her to look at him, saying that she's looking at him like that and saying such things. Hilda wonders how else she can look. She can't make her eyes triangular. The Duchess agrees that Hilda has a point, but the lady cannot beat Fred because of the ostrich. The heroine realizes that's what it is, and the brunette says that's exactly it. Hilda grabs his hand. It's as if he's stopping her and asking if the Duchess wants her to apologize. The woman clarifies what will happen if she says yes. Hilda replies that she will apologize if her son apologizes to Strauss first. The woman says that the two should not depend on each other, but Hilda is sure that everything is connected. Her son hit Strauss because he was angry with her. The woman asks if she would like the boy to bow his head to the Viscount. He's not from the Arpeggio family, after all. Hilda understands. That's the real deal beneath the sweet smile. Tarina is an aristocrat obsessed with her family name. Now she advises ladies to choose the right side. The rest of the family will be arriving soon, and while she herself doesn't mind Hilda, the others are not so soft. The heroine asks if she wants her on her side. The woman is surprised that Hilda understood it that way. Hilda asks if she can hear the truth, and the woman says yes. Hilda states that she understood it this way. The lady wants Ostrich on her side, not her. The guy is surprised, and the Duchess understands that this was said very accurately. Looking at her son, she sees his empty expression. He doesn't understand anything and doesn't know how to build connections at all. The woman merely smiles, saying it's all interesting. A little later, the heroine becomes indignant at her presumption, but the brunette asks her to speak more quietly. Hilda is angered by this attitude, and Strauss says she'll have to get used to it. Aristocrats rarely speak frankly. Hilda wonders why this is so, and he replies that it is against the rules of etiquette and asks for understanding. Hilda says she'll go crazy in such a world and asks why everything is so confusing. And isn't it better to speak frankly? She points to Rogan and says she wants him on her side. After these words, she felt better. The guy turns to her. He asks if she would agree if Lady Therina said it just as openly. The girl immediately complains that she doesn't even know what to say, and that the woman is simply trying to get to him through her, and she doesn't like that at all. Rogan asks if she wants to be her ally. The heroine replies that she will not allow this woman to use him. The Viscount is surprised, because he didn't think that the lady was so worried about him. Hilda says that Rogan is on her side, he is her man, and only she can give him orders. The guy replies that he didn't even know that she was being commanded. The heroine looks at him and thinks that with such a cute face, he is even surprised that he looks handsome. She sits down in a chair and says that she doesn't care. She doesn't like Fred, and if he does anything else, she'll rip all his hair out. Rogan says there's no point in making an enemy of Therina. Hilda replies that she understands. She is an important key to getting closer to the Duke. But now the Duchess doesn't care, because the girl is not going to bargain for the sake of Strauss. At the table, the woman said that it would be better for them to forget the grievances and start with a clean slate, because if the Duke found out, there would be no benefit to anyone. But at the same time, she congratulated the lady. Now she is part of their family. Hilda asks what Rogan would say in her place. He says he would say what he'd think about it, and everything would go away. He asks why anyone should tell him how to live, but the lady wonders if it's okay to speak as if there's something else behind the words. Rogan explains that you can't show your trump cards to your enemy, then you can play the game. The heroine understands that her best trump card in a conversation with the Duchess is Rogan Strauss. The guy says that if Therina wants him to be on her side, then Hilda can use this and steer the conversation in the right direction. Hilda admits that she feels bad doing this, but the guy doesn't understand why she reacts this way. Hilda says that it is because he is not a map, but a person, and moreover, he is very dear to her. He asks if she really thinks they are close, and Hilda clarifies that they are not. Rogan asks her why she decided that, and the girl realizes that he embarrassed her. She was sure that they were close, and she says this because she simply feels it. She has no other explanation, but she finds it strange that the word loved one can't get out of her head. It's an unusual day. She begins to imagine unnecessary things and realizes she's going too far. Then there's a knock on the door and a polite apology. Hilda is happy. Her savior has come, who will pull her out of the swamp of thoughts about intimacy. The maid brings the puppy, saying she's come to return it. The heroine looks at the sleeping baby and thinks that his life is wonderful. A moment later, she tells him to get up, and the Viscount remarks that at least he doesn't snore like some people. The heroine begins to pet the dog, gently coaxing him to wake up. And suddenly, the wolf jumps up and asks indignantly if she knows what it's like to be touched by strangers. He is so pure that his words sound completely unconvincing, the girl thinks. Then she decides to say that okay, she didn't send him for procedures. The wolf abruptly pushes her hand away and asks if she really considers him an errand boy. Hilda reminds him that they have a contract and he is obligated to carry out orders. But the wolf protests that his strong body isn't built for following human orders. The girl replies that he is of little use yet, since she learned magic herself, and he is only gaining strength. Then she asks what he will say to this, and the animal tells its owner that she simply didn't ask anything. He also adds that he's learned important information. Hilda is glad he's finally spoken. The wolf says that while he was being washed, he overheard the servants' conversation. The other Arpeggio family members will arrive that evening. Rogan says everyone realized something was wrong when Therina left. The wolf adds that the Countess is allergic to wool, which is why he was washed so thoroughly. Then they brushed him until his fur was smooth and even anointed him with scents. He especially liked the smell of rice oil. But Hilda asks him to shut up. She doesn't care about his bathing. She begins to think about the Countess and asks herself if it could be Cleo Arpeggio, her mother's sister. She remembers Rogan saying that this girl is the strongest mage of the Arpeggio family and probably the future heir. Hilda asked if Cleo was married, and the guy replied that no, she became a countess thanks to her own merits. The main character understands that she can't show the puppy. The wolf assures people that they should rely on him. But Hilda thinks she'll be hated by everyone anyway, even if she just breathes. The girl asks about the Countess's character, and the Viscount says that she is straightforward and always confident in her decisions. Hilda asks him if he likes Cleo, but he replies that he is only following the Duke's orders. The girl deduces what it means to not like it. The wolf again says he heard something. Hilda asks what exactly, and the animal reports an order to prepare for a big holiday. The girl clarifies what holiday we are talking about and what it is for. Rogan explains that there will be a family feast, and all the Arpeggios will gather. He adds that this is a typical family dinner, where everyone sits around the table. Hilda asks if there really will be a celebration tomorrow. The guy replies that no, so it's strange. Someone clearly didn't just suggest it for no reason. Hilda says she doesn't think the dinner is being held in her honor. The guy agrees and assures the family she won't be happy about it, meaning there will be an inspection. The girl asks if that's how you do it at dinner. He asks if she knows how many forks are used. Hilda thinks he's making fun of her. Then he asks what wine she would like with the fish and what with the meat. Hilda replies that she will drink whatever is served. The guy remains silent. The girl understands what kind of test they are preparing for her and asks if the Viscount will be there to give her some advice. But the puppy says that the owner is not listening. He said it clearly. The dark-haired man is banned from the family dinner. Hilda thinks he's being rude, but he's right. She asks what to do, and the guy promises to teach her. The main character realizes that she won't get any sleep tonight. Life in the family is harder than she thought. After a while, she looks at the table setting and doesn't understand what's going on. The guy explains that they're serving 8 courses: soup, fish, salad, main course, poultry, dessert, fruit and tea. He says that cutlery is used in order, starting with the furthest ones, and should be placed on the plate. The maids will take everything. And dinner will begin when the Duke gives the signal, and then her inspection will begin. Hilda says she's remembered everything. The guy reminds her. Soup should be eaten quietly. The girl watches him demonstrate and thinks he's handsome even while eating. Then she forces herself to concentrate, otherwise she'll spill everything. She starts training and is happy that she is doing everything perfectly. But the guy notices that she has already eaten everything and says tomorrow to eat twice as slowly and only a third of the dish. Hilda asks why they're leaving food behind when everything is delicious. She's surprised. She thinks that this will be offensive to the cook and will ruin his mood. The guy explains that aristocrats shouldn't have a big appetite, otherwise they will be judged. The girl asks what's wrong with her eating well. He says she won't be able to taste it tomorrow anyway. At dinner, she will be wearing tight clothes and will not be able to eat much. Hilda is surprised that the clothes will be even more uncomfortable and asks why. The Viscount replies that it's etiquette. The girl thinks it's a stupidity contest. Then the guy points to the bread. He asks how she'll eat it. She replies that she'll cut it in half. And he spreads oil. But there's no oil to be seen anywhere. The guy presses the container and a rose of oil appears. The girl admires it and says it's cool, but Rogan points out that a lady shouldn't say that. Then she tries to repeat it, but nothing comes of it. The Viscount comes up from behind and tells her what she's doing is wrong. You need to place the knife. Pressing lightly, he adds that the girl is too tense and should relax her shoulders. But seeing her reaction, he becomes frightened and asks her to breathe. The girl almost stops breathing. He turns her around in her chair and asks what happened, if she is ill. Hilda wonders how he even asks, since she can't breathe when he touches her. But she even likes it, and she realizes that she freezes every time he is close. The Viscount notices that she has blushed and asks if she has a fever. The girl gets even more embarrassed and blurts out that he is too handsome, and how can he even be like that? And he touches her hand again. The guy is surprised and apologizes. She asks him not to misunderstand her. She was simply embarrassed, because he is very handsome. Hilda thinks she takes after her mother. She has a weakness for beautiful faces. The Viscount thanks her, but Hilda doesn't understand why he does this. She remembers how her mother taught her to hide her awkwardness, otherwise it would be a sign of weakness. The girl decides to follow the advice and turns to Rogan. She suggests taking a 10-minute break and thinks she said it like a true aristocrat. The guy is surprised And she realizes that it sounds like she herself wanted to relax. The girl thinks that she really needs someone to support her, even a puppy. She leaves, and the Viscount blushes slightly. Hilda realizes she's always thought he was handsome, but her heart had never beaten like that before. His touch shook her. His hands were big and warm, and she wanted to feel it again. But she is brought out of her thoughts by someone's voice complaining that he can't eat. The lady next to her asks if Hilda doesn't like the food, and the girl replies that everything is fine. She just doesn't eat much. The woman calls it strange, since the food is so delicious. Hilda realizes she's deliberately trying to get to her. It's Ortigia Arpeggio, Fiore's wife. Their son is Timo Arpeggio, and at the table is also the Duke's eldest son, Fiore Arpeggio and Countess Cleo Arpeggio. The girl recalls asking about the heir's strength, and Rogan said that Fiore doesn't have magic, and Cleo is the strongest. But Rucha's daughter appeared, and her power was even greater, so Fiore would hate her more than anyone else. The woman says that it is not a matter of lack of appetite, but that the lady is simply unfamiliar with such food. Hilda notes that she doesn't even try to hide her mockery. At this point, the Duke's son intervenes. He offers to let Hilda choose the wine since she is new to the family. He asks her how much she knows about wine. She thinks so, and she assumes that's why they had the dinner. She says she saw Coletis and wine in the cellar, and asks if it will do. The man asks if she would choose white or red, smirking. But the girl says that the white wine is in oak barrels, and the wood aroma will spoil the taste of the fish. And trout is best served with Coletis-san. Rogan told her this, and she simply remembered it. The Duke's son is angry, and Cleo says that those who don't understand always say that white goes with fish. He suggests that Ruzia taught her about wine, but Hilda replies that she did not. She thought that aristocrats knew such basics, but apparently not. The Duke's son says magical power is more important, and he heard that she inherited Ruzia's power. Hilda confirms and says that she proved it in order to enter the family. Then the man puts out the candles and offers to show her his strength. He knows that her magic is connected with fire and wants to see it. Hilda replies that she can show, but it is inappropriate for dinner. She wonders how they can demand this right away, since she is just learning, and there is no puppy nearby to control her strength. And someone else asks their father for permission, because when else will the whole family get together like this? The woman asks if the lady wouldn't have a better chance to prove herself. The man replies, that's great. He's just eager to see what she's learned. The protagonist turns to the Duke and asks if there's any point in proving anything to the family, given that she's already demonstrated her powers by spending the night in the castle. She hopes these words will help. The Duke says that yes, there is no need, but he also sees nothing wrong with a show of force. Hilda admits that she doesn't have full control over magic, and thinks that today is definitely not the best moment. Then the Duke's son rudely says that the lady should not make him laugh, because she has no value other than magic. He reminds her that she has commoner blood in her veins, so she has no right to refuse to show her strength in front of her family. Fred asks if she proves that she is so strong that she allowed herself to raise a hand against him. Another woman remarks that she hopes the magic that brought her here is great enough to take her rightful place. Hilda realizes no one will take her side, and she wants to see Rogan. He asked her not to cause trouble. The puppy assured his owner that everything would work out, because she had learned a lot, and the heroine wondered if he really didn't believe in her. The wolf said that among people she does not learn as quickly as Rogan, and the girl understands that he is even more straightforward than the Viscount. She abruptly states that she is confident and just needs to finish her dinner in peace. She also asked Rogan if he believed in her, but he turned away. She doesn't understand why he avoids her gaze. The guy calmly replies that he doesn't expect much from her, but reminds her that she shouldn't forget the purpose of the dinner. Hilda agrees and asks him not to worry. He replies that he will try. The main character thinks that he is simply insensitive, because now is the perfect chance to gain the Duke's favor. But Rogan says she has a completely different goal today. Hilda asks, what if the Duke values her even more? He replies that then she can ask him for whatever she wants. Now Hilda feels that she believes in her own strength, but irritation is building up inside. She understands that too much has happened, and it can't help but weigh on her. She is irritated by this whole family and the fact that no one speaks directly, and there is a catch in every word. Food she shouldn't be able to finish, and a corset that makes it almost impossible to breathe. She senses magic and directs it at the table, casting a spell, but nothing happens. Then she's surprised, because she definitely felt the power. The heroine tries again, then again, but to no avail. The Duke's son mockingly asks if that's all. He even says that he feels awkward watching such attempts. But suddenly one of the young men screams. He screams that his hair is on fire. The man notices the fire and starts screaming in panic. The flames grow stronger and he, in shock, demands that they be put out immediately. The heroine realizes she's in trouble, and the man yells where the water is. The lady, unable to contain her laughter, mentally apologizes to Rogan. It seems she really is in trouble. The man demands that she put out the fire right now. But Hilda replies that she doesn't know a spell that could remove the flames. Family members try to put out the fire, and the man screams to be saved. Then Cleo stands up, snaps her fingers, and casts a spell. A huge ball of water appears in the sky, and Cleo directs it straight at the Duke's son. The stream completely covers the man, the flame goes out, and he begins to cough. Fiore's wife rushes to him, asking if he is okay. Hilda thinks he is ignoring her and is happy about it, but he immediately turns to her and screams that the lady staged the whole thing to humiliate him and send him into eternal sleep. Hilda reminds him that she warned him she doesn't control magic. The man yells that he will plunge her into eternal sleep and swings his arm, but the Duke sternly orders Fiore to stop. He calls his behavior a disgrace. The boy is outraged, but the Duke reminds him that he himself asked the lady to demonstrate her strength. The man screams that she deliberately set his hair on fire. The Duke coldly replies that he has seen magic, and it is much stronger than his son's. Later, the Duke turns to Hilda. He says that she has truly impressive strength, the likes of which he hasn't seen since Rusia left, but he's worried that Hilda can't control it. Hilda promises to study harder. The Duke approves and says he'll be glad to see her progress, then invites her to name any wish. She realizes it's a chance, but asks if she can answer later. The Duke is surprised, and Hilda explains that she wants to think everything through carefully because he said that he would fulfill her request, and this is a rare opportunity. The Duke asks again what she wants and assures her that it will not cause him any trouble. Hilda remembers that there are 4 duchies in the kingdom, and the strongest is Arpeggio. Duke Arpeggio owns the richest and most extensive lands, so whatever she asks for, he'll have the opportunity to fulfill it. The man says directly, yes, he can fulfill any of her wishes. The heroine understands that her words had an effect, and the flattery worked again. But the Duke notices that the more he looks at her, the more she reminds him of Rusia. Hilda thinks that he is talking about this again, and she herself no longer understands whether he is praising her or scolding her. Later, she approaches Cleo and apologizes for causing chaos at dinner. Cleo says it's not entirely her fault. Fiore got what he wanted. Then the Countess asks if that's all the lady wanted to say. Hilda asks permission to ask one more question. She asks if Cleo hates her. The woman replies that she has no reason to love her. Hilda suggests she might, because she's Ruzier Arpeggio's daughter. But Cleo says she wasn't close to her sister. Hilda says that she is very similar to her mother. Cleo replies that they're sisters, so they're naturally similar. But Hilda says the similarity lies in their strength. They both wield water. She understands that magical abilities depend on character, which is why Cleo is similar to her mother, both in appearance and inwardly. The woman says she understands why the lady is asking. She heard about the fight with Fred and the fire today, and decided Hilda is trying to find an ally. The heroine realizes that Cleo has read everything correctly. The Countess adds that Hilda is no slouch, but she admits that she hated Rusia, so she has no reason to treat her daughter well. And she asks if Hilda thinks the same. Hilda realizes she's learned a lot about Cleo. This woman doesn't beat around the bush and always speaks directly. Cleo asks if she will tell her aunt when she receives a gift from the Duke, because she is curious what exactly the girl will ask for. Later, Hilda takes off her corset and thinks she just wants to fall into eternal sleep. She recalls the Viscount's words, that no one here is on her side, and everyone will insult and pick on her. Hilda doesn't understand how unhappy she will be. Now she wonders why Rogan's words came up first. Entering the room, she sees the sleeping Viscount and is surprised. She realizes that he has fallen asleep over his book and sighs. He really is tired. The lady sits down next to him and leans lightly against his shoulder. At that moment, the guy asks how dinner went. The heroine screams in shock that he scared her and asks if he wasn't asleep. He replies that he woke up when she entered, but Hilda is sure he's lying. The guy asks how the meeting went, and Hilda just smiles. She thinks about how to explain it and decides not to talk about Fiore's burnt hair. Rogan notices her doubts and says he must have won the bet, but the girl confidently replies that no. The Duke was pleased with everything and promised a reward. The guy wonders if this is true. She assures him that it is, but then the Viscount asks why she's not happy. Hilda says the Duke praised her, but everyone else hates her. The guy replies that there's nothing surprising about this. The girl asks how he understands this. He reminds her that he told her right away, no one will be happy about the new family member. Hilda knows this, but still wonders why it is so unpleasant. Rogan puts his hand on hers, and the girl understands that everything is okay. He is next to her. Later, the maids whisper, asking if the Duke really named Hilda his heir. Some believe it's possible. One notes that she's Ruzia's daughter, so she has the right. But the other says the Duke is too open about it, and it's more profitable to support his eldest son. Another maid is certain that Tarina's influence is great, so they should stick by her son. Yet another believes the Duke will hand everything over to the Count, given his great accomplishments. The girl asks what's wrong with Hilda, and she hears the answer that no one thinks that the Duke will leave everything to her. Later, the puppy says that's exactly what the maids were discussing. Hilda flares up indignantly, as she's shown immense strength, but their reaction is so weak. The puppy says that strong magic is a sign of one's bloodline, but it's no guarantee that she'll be a good Duchess. Hilda gets even angrier. The puppy reminds that he tried and asks for the promised reward. Hilda says she's not happy with what she heard, but a promise is a promise. She gives him a crunchy cookie, and the puppy asks if it's really a cinnamon sugar bomb. The heroine is surprised that he's so picky and asks what kind of sugar bomb it is. The puppy explains it's from the candy store on the main street. The lady is hearing about this place for the first time, and the puppy generously decides to overlook her ignorance. The heroine thinks he's even scolding her, but he's too cute, so she won't argue. Rogan says that if she's distracted, it means the task is complete. Hilda assures her that yes, she did everything. The Viscount then asks not to delay him and to bring the tasks immediately, and not to think only about entertainment. Hilda puts the papers on the table and says that he looked busy, so she didn't want to disturb him. She asks what he is reading so carefully, and he replies that it is a letter from the royal family. This is permission to make the lady part of the Arpeggio family. Hilda is amazed. It means she's now officially an Arpeggio. Rogan confirms. She became Arpeggio from the moment the Duke gave his consent, and now the Emperor has confirmed it. She will be able to appear in society starting next year, so until then she must diligently study manners and culture. And she also needs to look decent. Hilda is indignant, asking what's wrong with her, and Rogan crosses out the word cool and tells her not to write like that again. She replies that the task was too difficult. Anyone would have made a mistake, but the guy reminds her that she shouldn't compare herself to others. She needs to be better. The protagonist realizes that he's grumbling again, and Rogan says that compared to the others. But Hilda notices another letter and asks what kind of message it is and whether it also came from the palace. The guy explains that this is the answer regarding the nightlock, and now they want to discuss this issue. Hilda asks if the palace is really not going to sell it, but Rogan says he doesn't know. The house is important, so it's not that simple. The girl says that the imperial family has no magic, and wouldn't it be easier for them to get rid of the Night Castle? But the guy replies that selling them might raise doubts about their magical blood. Hilda dismisses this as nonsense, but he only sighs. He says that one should never show weakness. But the girl replies with displeasure that she hates it. Rogan smiles and turns to her. Hilda asks what he wants this time. Turning around, she sees a chest of coins. The guy says it's money for her upkeep until summer. Hilda asks who they belong to, and Rogan replies that they are her funds now. She asks in shock if all this really belongs to her. Rogan confirms. Hilda wonders how much gold there is, and understands what it means to be an aristocrat. The guy says that this money is intended for dresses, jewelry, and various procedures. Hilda looks at her clothes and asks how much they paid for this dress. She wonders if her stern grandfather really gave her a gift. But Rogan replies that he bought everything himself. Hilda initially wants to say that's what she thought, but then it dawns on her. She cries out, wondering if he really spent his own money. He replies that he did. The guy explains that it's an apology gift because he wasn't prepared well on the first day and she had to wear Fred's clothes. Hilda asks in horror how much it cost because there are a lot of dresses and the aristocratic ones are extremely expensive. Rogan tells her not to worry and jokes that she thinks he's poor. The girl understands that the Viscount has enough money, but he has already done so much for her. She is grateful to him, but feels guilty and wants to repay. The guy opens the window, and Hilda addresses him. She says she wants to spend one day with him. Later, the guy ends up in the library. He recalls her words about a walk, but realizes he doesn't know the city very well. He has only one option left. He decides to explore everything. He spends the entire night reading about the city, its history, places, landscapes, and restaurants. Other aristocrats would take ladies to the theater, but he's not sure Hilda would like it. He understands that you can't guess anything with this girl, and he doesn't know what she wants. Hilda lived a completely different life, and it was difficult to predict her desires, even for him. Later, he leaves the room, but someone's voice stops him. They ask if he's really going for a walk with her. The guy realizes that it is Fiore, who has been wearing a hat since yesterday's dinner. He declares that such a crazy woman should not leave the house, and that the father is too naive. Rogan replies that the lady simply didn't receive a proper education, but she is capable. Fiore laughs, saying that taming such a wild thing is a waste of time. But Rogan replies that he is simply following orders. Fiore says that he expected such an answer and he likes his obedience. He asks how long Rogan plans to be the Duke's lapdog, and if he wants to look at other heirs. The guy replies that he doesn't see any worthy ones yet. Fiore irritably asks if he is even supposed to judge the heirs. Rogan calmly says that the decision is up to the Duke. But it turns out the Duke often listens to his words. After that, the guy leaves. In the morning, Hilda complains about why she has to get up so early. The maid reminds her that she has a date with the Viscount today. Hilda says it's not a date, just a stroll. But the maid assures him that he must trust her. She will make Hilda so beautiful that Rogan will not be able to look away. Another girl says that this is the lady's first walk outside the castle since moving. Hilda realizes that this is true and decides to dress up a little. The maid shows the jewelry, saying that the ruby matches her eyes perfectly. Another one hands over shoes that accentuate her figure. Dorothy tightens her corset and asks to hold her breath. She adds glitter to her collarbones, which will look beautiful in the sun. After a while, Hilda is completely ready, and Dorothy admires her appearance. Another maid notes that Hilda now looks nothing like the girl who first came to the castle. The main character is happy about their cheerful mood, but she feels a little awkward about their words. Although she is happy, the girls relaxed around her. One of them hands over some perfume and offers to apply a little. Another woman says she wonders what perfume Rogan wears. He always smells nice. Hilda suggests asking his maid and asks who takes care of his things. The maid replies that he does everything himself. Hilda is surprised. The maid adds that he even cleans his own room. Hilda wonders if he's a misophobe. But then she wonders why he's touching her so calmly. At that moment, someone knocks. The maid informs that the Viscount is waiting for his mistress, and Hilda goes to the reception room. She's sure the guy will be speechless when he sees her. The girl walks down the hallway with a smile. She comes in and asks Rogan what she looks like. The guy wonders if she's really going to go out looking like that. Hilda asks if she really looks that bad. The Viscount is embarrassed and says that she is stunning, but it is too fancy for a walk. She gets upset, and he asks her to wait a minute. He runs away, and she wonders where he went. He replies that he will be there soon, and Hilda realizes that the outfit is indeed too much. But she feels sorry for the work of the maids. Rogan returns and says a change of shoes is enough. Hilda asks if that's really enough. He explains that the shoes are hers. She just hasn't seen them. He offers to help her, but Hilda protests that she can handle it herself. He says it's hard to change shoes in a dress like that. Hilda tries to persist and suggests calling the maid. But he replies that this is not necessary and asks her to lift her skirt a little. She gets embarrassed and wonders why it's so easy for him. She asks the guy if he is so kind to everyone. Hilda knows he always talks about the Duke's orders, but now he says no. She hadn't expected such concern. Later, they are riding in a carriage, and the puppy complains that he is ashamed of his outfit. But Hilda thinks he actually likes the hat. Rogan says they're almost at Rose Square. Hilda looks out the window and is surprised that there are so many people there, but she doesn't see any roses. Rogan asks if she knows Arpeggio's coat of arms. She immediately assumes he's going to lecture her again. But he remembers that the coat of arms depicts a rose, which is why the square is called that. The city belonged to the duchy, and if she had remained Hilda Russ, she would never have seen this place. She feels how different her previous life is from Arpeggio's world. When they arrive, Rogan offers her his hand. The coachman says he'll be back in the evening and drives off. The puppy sniffs something. Hilda asks what happened, and the wolf says it smells like a gun. Rogan explains that there's a gun shop nearby. Hilda is surprised, as the puppy could detect even the faintest scent. But the wolf gets angry and reminds that he is not a dog. Hilda asks if he wants to go into Sugar Bomb. The puppy asks if this is the famous dessert shop. If so, he immediately agrees. He asks the lady to let him go first, and Rogan sighs. They just arrived, and already they're running for sweets. But he admits it's a good way to walk around and explore the city. The puppy tells him to shut up. Hilda laughs from behind. She understands that Rogan must be pleased with the trip. Last night, she asked the cook what Rogan liked. The only things that came to mind were books and studying. The maid asked if she had found out what he really liked. Hilda realized that Dorothy didn't know either. It was as if Rogan didn't love anything. Then she asked him if he liked the stones, but the maid said that he didn't spend money, so it was unlikely. The cook just laughed and said that they didn't understand anything. Hilda immediately asked if he knew the truth. He replied that he did, having cooked for the Viscount for many years. She seriously asked me to tell her what dishes Ostrich likes. And now, she walks into the pastry shop with Rogan, knowing the answer. A couple of minutes later, desserts are brought to them, and the main character carefully examines the sweets on the table. She notices that the tea has already cooled down, but thinks that the guy would still enjoy black tea with sugar and a very sweet chocolate cake. She wonders if he will like it. She asks the Viscount to try the dessert. The girl also hands the puppy some treats and tells him to help himself. Rogan lifts a piece of cake to his mouth, and the main character watches with interest to see if he likes the taste. Meanwhile, the puppy is delighted with the sweets. The Viscount wipes his mouth and confidently declares that everything is incredibly delicious. The girl, amazed, realizes the chef was right. After all, Rogan really does love sweet desserts. A moment later, the heroine admits she hadn't even guessed about his addiction. Rogan is embarrassed, and the girl wonders if it was really a secret. The guy says he was trying to control himself, and the girl immediately clarifies that she simply heard about it from the cook. Rogan asks if she finds that weird, and she wonders why he says that. He replies that it seems unbecoming for a man who loves sweets so much. Hilda assures him that there's nothing strange about it. She asks what gender has to do with taste. She says she's pretty, but likes to drink. Rogan remarks that this isn't very appropriate for an aristocrat, but Hilda tells him not to grumble and to keep eating. She asks if he likes anything else besides desserts. He replies that he's not sure. The girl says it could be anything, even something trivial. The Viscount thinks. Hilda is surprised that he takes such a simple question so seriously and realizes that he doesn't seem to think about himself at all. Rogan admits that he loves being praised and acknowledged for his efforts. Then he feels his work has not been in vain. The girl says he is smart and worthy of constant praise, but he understands that everything could have been different, and he obviously tried very hard to become the best in order to get approval. The puppy turns to his owner and says she should try hard for compliments too. The woman wonders why. The puppy explains that even the ugly duckling needs at least a little praise and support to live on, and this helps move forward. Hilda wants to tell him something, but she realizes he's right. She thinks she's only getting in everyone's way and sighs. The Viscount tells her not to worry, because she's doing everything well. He places his hand on hers, and Hilda realizes that her position doesn't matter. She's pleased to hear Rogan's approval. A short time later, they continue their walk. The girl carries sweets for the cook and the maid. Then they look at the beautiful outfits and go to the library. It's time to go home. Hilda sighs wearily and says she's really tired today. Rogan asks if she enjoyed the day. She replies that yes, it was fun, and asks him about his impressions. Rogan says he enjoyed it too, as he hasn't been out and about in a while. The puppy happily adds that he felt good too. People began to treat him much better. Times really are changing. But at that moment, the carriage suddenly jumps, and the girl falls. Rogan manages to catch her. She asks what's going on. The Viscount says he'll come out to see, but the lady should stay inside. Hilda screams that it is dangerous to go out alone and asks to take at least the puppy to use as a weapon. The guy does so and asks the lady not to go out. Hilda asks him to be careful. A moment later, the girl hears someone scream and realizes that it is the voice of a man who has just been plunged into eternal sleep. She realizes it's not Rogan and wonders if they're bandits. She needs to make sure the Viscount is okay. She is about to go out, but the guy shouts at her to stay put. The wolf says that the lady has no strength to defend herself, but she still tries to get out and calls her reckless. Hilda asks what happened to the coachman. The guy covers her eyes, but she still sees through his fingers a man covered in red liquid. Rogan says she needs to get back to the cart, but the girl screams that she just wanted to see if they were bandits. The wolf asks if the robbers would attack the carriage and says that they were assassins. Rogan cries out to the puppy, and the girl wonders if this is true and who their target is. Hilda suggests that perhaps they wanted to attack her, but she doesn't understand why. The wolf says it's time for dinner, and the man on the ground screams, begging for mercy. The girl breaks free from the Viscount's arms and asks the puppy not to send the man into eternal sleep. She realizes she must find out who is behind the attack. Meanwhile, a man in a nearby house awaits their return. One of the assassins breaks free from the puppy's clutches and tries to escape. The wolf shouts to his mistress that in such situations, mercy is the worst choice. But the girl says that if this isn't an ordinary bandit, then we need to find out whose orders he's acting on. She asks if the puppy can track him by scent. The wolf grumbles that people like to complicate things, and they could just put him to sleep. Hilda says that if he finds the ringleader, he can do whatever he wants with that man. She also understands that the coachman died for nothing, and agrees there's no need for mercy. The puppy runs after the assassin, and hopes that the owner does not take back her words. Meanwhile, the man in the hut notices someone else entering. It's Fiore, and the man wonders what he's doing here. The boy asks if it's his father, and he says he's interested in what Timo is doing. The boy replies that he's doing nothing and wants to say something else, but a mercenary appears at the door, and Timo asks what's wrong. He shouts that a monster has appeared nearby. Fiore clarifies what they are talking about, and the mercenary says that it is a beast taller than 2 meters. He thought the master needed to know about it. Fiore asks where the monster is, and the mercenary replies that it's at the foot of the road leading into the city. The man says that everything is clear, and the next moment he cuts down the mercenary. He hits his son and yells at him for being such a fool, for not being able to come up with something like that himself. He asks whose idea it was, his mother's. Timo replies no. His father demands to know who it is then and orders him to answer immediately. Timo says it was Mistress Tarina's idea. His father nudges his son and yells at him for being an idiot for trusting her so thoughtlessly. He says that this girl with the dirty red liquid humiliated him and tries to please his grandfather with some pathetic magic. The man shouts that this is why his son went to Tarina and asks if he wanted to personally euthanize that girl. Timo replies that Tarina knows people who would do everything perfectly. But the father shouts that any professional would have fallen into eternal sleep the moment the plan failed, not crawled along, leaving traces of red liquid. He asks if his son thinks Tarina is truly working in their interests. Timo asks if Tarina deceived him. Fiore shouts that if Hilda dies, the Duchess will blame him. She'll get rid of both of them without even blinking, and Timo asks what they should do now. He wants to know if anyone else knows. Timo says that only he knows. The man replies that this is good, and he adds that the son must pray that Hilda remains alive. Otherwise, he himself will face eternal sleep. After all, he pulled his father into the red liquid, and Timo tearfully asks for forgiveness. The man talks about a monster and is sure that the girl is hiding something. This monster could be her weakness. After a while, Rogan asks if the lady is okay. She says that, except for the stomach pain, yes. And then quietly asks if someone from the family is behind this. The guy suggests waiting for news from the puppy, but suddenly hears someone approaching from behind. Rogan yells at the lady to be careful and shields her with his body. Daggers fly past his hand. He rushes at the attacker, and the girl wonders if there was another one. The Viscount enters the fray. Hilda, realizing he could be harmed, decides to use magic. She sets fire to the carriage and is happy with the result. Now it is brighter around, but the mercenary is nowhere to be seen. When she spots him, he's already attacking Rogan. Hilda immediately directs magic at the enemy. Rogan is worried about her, and the assassin shouts at her to put out the flames. The girl's heart pounds wildly. The mercenary lunges at her, declaring he will send her into eternal sleep. She wonders if she will be able to use magic again, and she understands that she must. Even if she has almost no strength, she casts a spell. After a while, she bandages Rogan's wound and says that she is very sorry. This is the first time she has been in such horror. The guy says there's nothing to apologize for. It's normal to be afraid at times like these. He tightens the bandage and the girl worries. After all, he's wounded. Rogan assures him that everything is fine. The wound is not serious, and he's alive thanks to her magic. Hilda admits that she felt better after his words, but this time her magic felt different. The guy says he noticed it too, and maybe her power is growing. Hilda says she was afraid for him and lost her temper, thinking he might die. The innocent coachman fell into eternal sleep. Rogan was wounded and the assassin was unharmed. This made her very angry. The guy says that her magic is born from strong emotions. The lady says she wanted to hurt the assassin, but the guy stops her. There's no point in blaming yourself, because that's how they were saved. He tries to find words of support, but the girl asks how they can get back. The carriage is destroyed. After a while, they are riding horseback, and the girl remembers that she forgot to tell Rogan something important. She's going to tell him now, before there are too many prying ears at home. Harry asks what it's about, and she says she wants to test herself. She's planning to claim the position of Arpeggio's heir. The boy is surprised and asks why, since she wanted a quiet life. Hilda says that if they send assassins because they see her as a threat, then maybe she should actually become a threat. The Viscount asks if she truly thinks he will support her. The lady replies that he is acting on the Duke's orders. He asks why she wants this. The lady says she just wants to become the heir and Duchess of Arpeggio. The guy is surprised, and after that, they return home. The maid, seeing her mistress, shouts that she returned so late and how worried they were. She notices that the hostess looks strange, and the girl replies that they encountered robbers on the road. Hilda realizes that she and Rogan have already decided everything and says that she is alive only thanks to Mr. Strauss. The girl says that at dawn, people need to be sent to the place. The coachman is still in eternal sleep. The butler is surprised and asks if she's okay. Rogan assures her the bandits were a rude bunch. He says he easily managed it alone. The butler adds they were walking without guards, saw an expensive carriage, and assumed they were looking at wealthy middle-class people. The servant asks the Viscount to go up to his chambers and tend to his wounds. The maid approaches the mistress, offers to help her wash and change clothes, and the girl agrees. But looking at the stairs, she notices several more family members there. The girl understands that one of them is involved in what happened, and it will soon become clear who. After a while, she asks who is to blame, and the puppy replies that it is Timo Arpeggio. The heroine is shocked. Could this really be the same tall, skinny, and strange son of Fiore? The Viscount gestures for her to be quiet. The lady whispers that he didn't look capable of such a thing, and suddenly wonders if Fiore forced him to avenge the heir. But the puppy replies that no, Fiore didn't know anything. Hilda asks where he got that information, and the puppy admits he overheard their conversation. Fiore found out about this too late and tried to stop Timo, but someone else was behind it all. Rogan asks if it's Lady Tarina, but the heroine whispers that Tarina has a bad relationship with the Fiore family. How could they work together? The guy says that Timo is weak-willed and couldn't cope alone, but if you support him, he easily agrees to everything. The heroine clarifies, so Tarina was helping him? The guy replies that it's possible. She could have tried to take out both of them at once. The lady says that these two birds with one stone were she and Fiore. The puppy adds that Fiore told his son the same thing and considered him a fool for believing the hair theory. The heroine understands. Tarina used Timo, and he didn't even notice that he was digging a hole for himself. The Viscount says this is entirely possible. The heroine thinks so, and tries to understand why more and more people want to put her into eternal sleep. She sighs, deciding that she will have to get rid of Tarina and Timo. But becoming an heir while feuding with everyone is impossible. She's wondering where to start. The girl says Fiore needs to be brought in. The Viscount asks if she wants to exploit this incident. The heroine replies that it's worth a try, but he points out that Fiore can pretend she knows nothing. She has no proof. Hilda says that evidence is not needed. The saint is enough. Later, the girl lies down in bed, thinking about the long day and about how she wants to become the successor of the Arpeggio family. She recalls how it all began. She simply dreamed of a calm and secure life. But no matter how brave she is in front of Rogan, she is not sure that she can become the heir. Even the wind frightens her, and she doubts whether she will be able to sleep peacefully. At some point, she jumps up, thinking that she will be attacked again. But he sees a light in the corridor and thinks who could be there. The maid is already asleep, which means there might be another mercenary. We need to be on our guard. Someone speaks to the lady, and she thinks it is Rogan's voice. The Viscount asks if she is asleep, and the girl wonders why he came at such an hour. It is not proper for a young man to visit a young lady's chambers, especially one who is always grumbling about etiquette. The guy turns around and leaves, and the heroine doesn't understand why he didn't even knock. She screams that she is not sleeping, runs to the door and opens it. The guy wonders why she isn't wearing slippers, and the heroine realizes that she ran out in a hurry. But she tries to act confident, like an aristocrat, and asks if he has a favor to ask. He says he just wanted to check if she was asleep. Hilda replies that she suffers from insomnia and asks if he wanted to say anything else. The brunette says he wanted to ask her to go to bed, and the heroine is surprised that that's all. He confirms. Hilda asks if he's serious, and the guy replies that one of the principles of aristocracy is good sleep. The heroine asks how many such principles there are, and he, having lit a candle, apologizes to the lady. He lifts her up in his arms, saying that ladies shouldn't go barefoot. She asks if it's etiquette and begs him to let her go. Rogan replies that it's etiquette too, but also because she might get hurt. He tucks her into bed, and she thanks him. He tells her to go to sleep, promising to stay by her side until she does. Hilda wonders if this is the Duke's order, but if not, maybe it's time to cross the line. She asks if he can hold her hand while she falls asleep. The guy offers his hand. The lady notices that he is lost in thought and asks why. He says that as a child, he almost fell into an eternal sleep and could not sleep, seeing monsters and the shadows on the ceiling. The heroine is surprised. So he was scared too. And who held his hand as a child? The guy says that no one has ever been able to put him into eternal sleep and asks the lady not to be afraid. No one will touch her. Hilda smiles, realizing what it's like to have someone you can trust by your side. As a duchess, she'll be able to make him completely hers. Later, she opens the window and decides it's time to begin her plan. The evening after the attack, she asks the Viscount about the sound magic he had taught her earlier. The guy asks if she's talking about gathering magic, and the lady replies that yes, although the spell is complicated. Then she suggests collecting Tarina's voice, accusing Timo. The Viscount asks how to do this. Tarina will not say this out loud. Hilda says the main thing is that his name is heard, and asks if they can put the phrase together and edit it later. The guy reminds her that the magic of gathering is possible, but he didn't say it was possible to edit what was gathered. The heroine asks why, and he replies that such a spell does not exist. The lady says that means it needs to be created. A little later, she thanks the Duchess for the tea. The woman says that drinking tea in the greenhouse is the best option. The lady agrees and asks if she wouldn't mind spending time like that occasionally. The woman replies that occasionally is fine. The heroine inhales the aroma of the tea and notes its pleasant scent. The Duchess mentions that she heard about the terrible incident and is glad the lady has recovered. Hilda thanks her for her concern. The woman asks if the culprit has been caught. The heroine thinks that's all she needs to know. The lady replies no. The body burned and it couldn't be identified. The woman sighs, saying that the bandits have been getting wild lately. Hilda says the heavens were on her side and thinks she can now begin collecting evidence. She remembers her father, a handsome gardener. She assumes that the Duchess knew about this, because rumors had been circulating for a long time. But the woman replies that no, she has never met either him or Ruchia. The heroine sighs. It's a pity, her father really was handsome. She says he was as tall as Lord Tior's son. The woman asks what his name was. Hilda guessed the name Fred, but the woman says his name is Timo Arpeggio. The heroine is delighted. The audio evidence has been collected. She apologizes, saying she got the names mixed up. The Duchess remarks that such mistakes are dangerous for a lady's future. She says Hilda still has a lot to learn, and Strauss isn't having an easy time with her. The heroine thinks he should laugh. It won't be long now. The girl says it's true. After a while, she asks how to animate the collected sound. Rogan suggests taking a pen and paper. The spell is long. The puppy creates them with magic, and the lady thanks him. She points to a strange phrase and asks what it's for. The guy says it's just decoration. Hilda suggests removing it to make it shorter, but the guy says, the beauty of the spell affects its power. The puppy adds that words cut worse than a knife, and the language of runes is a dialogue with the universe. Polite words evoke the best response. The Viscount puts down his pen, and the lady asks if he has finished. He replies yes. She asks to try. The guy begins. He places his hand on the necklace, casts a spell, and Tarina's voices appear as letters. The Viscount says there's a lot of unnecessary stuff there. The puppy says it'll take a long time to fix. 2 days of work, head over heels. The heroine is surprised that everything is so complicated. The puppy reminds her, it's not about magic, but about understanding the universe. She touches the spell and asks if it is possible to erase the unnecessary by force. The puppy replies that if it were that easy, they would have done it long ago. But the Viscount looks at her in surprise. The heroine asks to see. She really does succeed, although it is strange. She stands on the table, but the Viscount says it's dangerous. The girl asks if she just needs to remove the excess. The puppy is worried. Something is wrong with her body. The lady asks, what exactly? The wolf says that her magic is not just strong, it is incredibly powerful. The heroine doesn't understand. But if the Viscount smiles, everything is fine. The false evidence is ready. All that remains is to choose the time and place to put the squeeze on Timo. After the attack, she can't tell who he's afraid of, her or Tarina. Fiore doesn't leave Timo's side, making it difficult to meet him alone. Later, the heroine walks through the garden, and the Viscount says that Fiora will not be at the estate tomorrow. Hilda asks what he's talking about and realizes that she spent the whole night suffering in vain and even secretly following Timo. She should have talked to Rogan right away. Brunette says that Fiore will go to Baron Regil's estate in the morning. He'll only be back the day after tomorrow morning or late in the evening. The heroine wonders how he knows this. The Viscount says he simply heard talk of a billiards meeting. Fiore never misses one. The heroine wonders if he really enjoys having fun. He says such encounters aren't just games. He explains that for men, it's the same as tea drinking for women. They observe their rivals, show themselves off, and gather information. Hilda says she understands now and notes that he won't be taking Timo with him. Rogan replies that Fiore won't pay the fee for both. Hilda is surprised. Is there a fee? The guy replies that many such meetings require a deposit or other conditions. The heroine thinks that the aristocrats clearly don't know what to do with their money. But then she says everything worked out perfectly. The meeting was scheduled at the perfect time. The guy agrees. He smiles and says what a coincidence. The heroine thinks Rogan is acting strange. She asks directly, did he really do something to make sure this meeting took place? And is she right? The guy smiles and says he's got everything ready. He asks if the lady can handle it herself, but she just tells him not to worry. She's confident. After all, threats are her strong suit. That morning, as Rogan predicted, Fiore left for a meeting, deciding that high society was more important than his own son. After a while, someone says that the lady can come in, and the heroine realizes it seems that Fiore told his son not to meet with her alone. Or maybe Timo just decided he could handle her on his own. But that only plays into her hands. When the girl walks in, the guy says that she doesn't even know when to bow her head and calls her uneducated. But the heroine replies that he should bow his head before her. The guy asks again, and she asks if he's figured out why she came. He states that if she wants to apologize for the incident with his father's hair, she needs to bend almost to the floor. But Hilda says that he should apologize for trying to put her into eternal sleep. The guy is shocked and demands proof, and the girl understands that if he were innocent, he would be confused or ask what kind of nonsense this is. But the first thing he talked about was evidence, which meant he really was trying to put her into eternal sleep. Hilda asks if he really thought she came without proof. The guy yells at her not to lie and asks what she plans to do. The heroine shows him the pendant and says it also has magic. She asks if he doesn't understand what it is. The girl activates the spell, and the words of Lady Tarina come from the pendant, who claims that the lady experienced something terrible a few days ago. Hilda realizes she had to use audio capture and editing magic to intimidate Timo. She had to learn everything at an accelerated pace, and she doesn't know whether to be grateful for it or not. Then the words come out of the pendant that the criminal is Timo Arpeggio, and also that the nanny suspects him and does not understand how this happened. Since it's all fabricated, Hilda feels insecure, but Timo is so confused that he doesn't notice anything. The boy falls to his knees and screams that it wasn't him. The heroine replies that she intends to hand everything over to the Duke. Timo grabs her by the dress, begging her not to do it, or he'll be finished. But the heroine asks why she should feel sorry for him. He repeats that it wasn't him, and she asks if he thinks Tarina only gave one set of statements. After all, Tarina said she had evidence and would testify before the Duke. Hilda asks if he'll justify himself even under such circumstances. The guy shouts that he had nothing to do with it, and he claims that Tarina ordered him to do so, because she is the real criminal and is trying to blame everything on him. The heroine pushes his hand away and asks if he really thought she didn't know. Timo is stunned, and Hilda asks him to finally think about it. Why would Tarina suddenly be so willing to help her? She says it was she who came to Tarina, and not the other way around. The guy asks why, and the girl replies because she already knew everything. The real culprit is Tarina, and Timo was just used, portrayed as the criminal. Timo asks how she knows this, and the heroine thinks it's thanks to her little spy puppy. But out loud, she says she doesn't have to explain. The main thing is that she knows the truth. Hilda says that if she presents evidence to the Duke, Timo will become a criminal who wanted to put his own relative into eternal sleep. She turns away, but the guy calls her. The lady says she's willing to give him a chance. He's surprised and asks what she's talking about. Hilda says that if he writes down his confession and apology in detail, she will destroy the evidence and say nothing to the Duke. She has no intention of joining forces with Tarina, who is cunning and immoral. So if she had to choose between two allies, she'd choose him and his father. Now it all depends on him. Let him decide whether to let her go and tell the Duke everything, or to confess honestly and enlist her support. The girl hands him a sheet of paper with the first item and tells him to choose. A short time later, Fiore returns. Seeing the heroine, he asks what's going on. Hilda offers him some tea if he's not busy, but he replies that he has no intention of wasting time drinking tea with someone like her. The heroine asks if he'll still be so confident after reading the document. The man brusquely demands to see what kind of impudence this is. After reading the paper, he's shocked and tries to tear it up, but the girl asks if he's sure he should, since there's no spell on the paper. Then she repeats the question, will he drink tea with her? After a while, they are sitting at the table, and he asks what she wants. If she'd wanted to harm him, she would have shown the document to her father or Tarina. Since she didn't, it means she's looking for a deal, the heroine confirms. And she understands. As Rogan said, Fiore is quick-witted and quick to grasp things. But he warns that if she complains to her father, he won't even blink. Hilda thinks that the Duke will not protect her because he will not drive out his eldest son for her sake. And what's worse, if the matter gets blown out of proportion, he'll blame her, since it was her fault that the whole fuss started. But the girl says this could undermine the heir's status. Fiore is shocked and screams what she's talking about. Hilda asks if she's really threatening him. She'll only add fuel to the fire. Tarina will do the rest. Fiore remembers that Tarina is an accomplice. Hilda replies that she has Timo's confession, but nothing against Tarina, and Tarina might accuse him of setting her up. The man claims that the girl could not have come up with such a plan on her own, and asks if Strauss had suggested it to her. The heroine smiles and says that Fiore knows Strauss better than she does. She asks if he would make such an effort for her. After all, he himself said that Strauss is the Duke's faithful assistant. Fiore screams, calling her a fox. The girl suggests getting down to business, since he still hasn't asked what she wants. She says her first condition is that he address her respectfully. No girls or vixens, only Hilda Arpeggio. Fiore is outraged. The heroine asks if this is difficult. She doesn't demand that he address her as his niece, after all. He agrees. She says there's a second condition. He's surprised. She reminds him that she said first, which means there's more to it. He sighs and is ready to listen. She asks him to organize a tea party and formally introduce her to other aristocrats. Fiore wonders if they're talking about tea. The heroine understands that he's in shock, just like she was then. She remembers asking the Viscount what he meant. They had received recognition, and all she was asking for was tea. He explained. Tea drinking is a place where you make connections and gain information. It's prestigious. And would Fiore really believe it if she said that she wanted to ally with him, to protect her status as heir? She replied no. But even a cup of tea was too small a price to pay for Timo's confession. The guy said that hearts are hard to win, but if you take it step by step, anything is possible. Now Fiore asks if this is really what she's asking for. Hilda understands. As the Duke's first son, he can do much. He will host a tea party and introduce her to the nobles. This will show everyone that she has an heir behind her. Fiore himself will think that the request is too small compared to what she has in her hands. So the negotiations go smoothly and he accepts her condition. Sometime later, Hilda is sitting with a book, and the puppy says that she has a real talent for creating spells. He asks why she's so lost in thought. The heroine thinks, what kind of studying is there at dawn? The Viscount asks if she is tired, and the girl is surprised that he looks so handsome even at such a time. She says she's very tired from dealing with Fiore and Timo. She was hoping to at least get some rest. The guy says Timo will soon be leaving the estate. The heroine asks where he's going. He replies that Timo will be sent to a boarding school in the south. Hilda is surprised and asks if he's planning to go into hiding. The boy says he probably will, away from magic. For example, from Tarina's or Hilda's magic. The heroine asks him to wait. It sounds like she's done something terrible, but he reminds her that they've both faced difficulties. Hilda thinks it's unfair. Yes, the Duchess wanted to eliminate her, but all she did was make Timo fall to his knees and cry. The puppy suggests stopping the chatter and continuing the lesson. But Hilda says she's studying. Looking at the books makes her feel sick. Suddenly she remembers something and says that she has already decided what reward she wants to receive from the duchy. The Viscount asks what she's talking about, and the puppy says she's completely disorganized. Hilda recalls a recent dinner where the Duke, impressed by her magic, promised to grant her one wish. The guy asks what she chose. The girl thinks about it. After some time, the Duke asks if the lady truly wants a knight. The girl replies that yes, she needs someone who will take responsibility for her life. The man asks if it is because of the recent attack. He says that the Viscount is also quite skilled with a sword and asks if she trusts him. Hilda replies that she trusts him because it was he who saved her life back then. But the man still asks if she really wants a knight, just because she can't defend herself. This sounds weak to Arpeggio. He says there's no point in seeking a knight for her alone. Who would harm her anyway, unless it was a robber for a small fortune? The girl can barely contain herself. He doesn't even know that his wife tried to put her into eternal sleep. After all, it wasn't a gang of robbers who attacked her, but the Duchess. The girl says he misunderstood her request and asks if he can explain. The man allows it. She says she doesn't need a protector, but a knight. The Duke doesn't understand the difference and asks if she doesn't just need a bodyguard. Hilda replies that she does, but more. The main thing is that she wants to learn how to wield a sword. The Duke turns around and asks in surprise if she really wants to learn. He says it's absurd. Why should a noblewoman know how to wield a sword? Hilda replies that then she will become the most skilled of all noble ladies. The Duke asks what the point is. The heroine replies, the point is that she will be the first if it concerns the sword, and should she only study music, singing, and embroidery like everyone else? She asks, is the Arpeggio a family that follows rules or makes them? The man asks how she even dared to test him, using only her magic. The girl is afraid, but firmly answers, it is not about magic. She hopes for the influence of the Duke, who gave her the surname Arpeggio. The man asks how she can be so sure. She says she should wait and see. When Lady Arpeggio takes up the sword, the other girls follow her. The man is silent, and the girl wonders if he's really going to refuse. But the Duke still says he'll give her a knight. Hilda wants to thank him, but he only opens the book and tells her to go. As she leaves, she bows and thinks she almost fell into an eternal sleep from nerves. But the main thing is, she convinced him. She wonders what the knight will be like and whether he will be on her side. After a while, the girl walks barefoot and realizes she has nowhere to go. Perhaps she should have held back. She understands that yes, Rogan is demanding and strict, but he's the only one on her side, and she doesn't understand why she lost her temper. A little earlier, she had shouted that the Viscount was fixated on the result and asked him to look at the process itself. But he replied that if the result is not perfect, the process is unimportant. Hilda said that not everyone could be as perfect as he was. Instead of telling her what she was bad at, he could also point out what she was good at. She asked if it was really that hard. Rogan said that if she wanted praise, he would ask the Duke to assign her a tutor who would praise her. She called him stubborn, and then she shouted out that he was a zero as a teacher, turned around, and left. The girl took off her heels, but the guy immediately made a remark, saying that a lady shouldn't walk barefoot. It's dangerous. Now the girl is wondering if this is the same academic stress she's only heard about, and whether she should be the first to apologize. Hilda decides that from now on, she will call Rogan the king of the grumble demons. She even shouts it out loud and feels her soul become lighter. But suddenly he hears someone's laughter, turns around and notices some guy in a tree. He laughs and repeats her words, but suddenly slips and falls down. As he falls, Hilda is shocked to think about how high it was and worries that he has fallen into eternal sleep. But the guy calmly continues laughing and insists that Rogan Strauss is the king of the grumbling demons. Hilda looks at him and thinks he's just crazy. At this time, the butler enters the Viscount's room, asking what he is doing. The boy quickly hides his heels. The butler apologizes, saying the door was open. Strauss replies that everything is fine, but asks if something happened. The man says it might not be that important, but a servant from the Rakan family has arrived. The Viscount asks if this is true. He confirms and adds that the man came pale with fear and asked if their third young master, who disappeared on the road and was never found, had appeared. Brunet says that if we are talking about the third young master of the Rakan family, then his name is Ilya Rakan is a man known for his unpredictability and the complete opposite of Rogan, who always adhered to strict rules. His only asset was his excellent swordsmanship. But even so, Ilya was expelled from the Imperial Knights after 6 months. He was unfit to serve under anyone's command. The Viscount says Ilya is already an adult and will surely be able to find his way home. But the butler points out that the matter is different. The boy was heading to their estate. The guy wonders why this merry fellow needed to go to the duchy and asks if it is connected with the appointment of a knight for the lady. At that moment, he hears Hilda scream that some psycho is chasing her. The guy is surprised, and the girl explains that a strange guy fell from a tree, and it looks like a madman got into the estate. The butler exchanges glances with the Viscount, and the guy only sighs heavily. Hilda begs him to come up with something and hides behind Rogan, but that same guy is already running into the room. He says the lady is incredibly fast, like a cute squirrel, and claims he heard her talking to herself. He continues to admiringly tell her that she is resourceful and smart, and when he tried to talk, she ran away, and he simply could not help but follow her. Hilda, horrified, demands he step away and begs Rogan to do something, as this man is clearly not himself. Ilya, however, assures him he's perfectly normal and has never felt so clear and calm. He says that when he heard her voice, he immediately understood that his heart belonged to her. The guy gets down on one knee, and the Viscount darkens and abruptly interrupts what is happening. He sighs, saying that it will be hard if both of them continue to make so much noise in the mansion. He then orders the butler to escort the knight to the reception room. He'll be there soon. Graham agrees. But Ilya asks why go to the reception area if everyone you need is already here, and you can talk right now. But under the Viscount's gaze, he immediately gives in and says that the reception room is an excellent option, and asks the butler to hurry. Hilda turns to Rogan and asks if he'll give her a chance to justify herself. Rogan remains silent, and she adds that how could she have known some madman would show up? But at that moment, the boy lifts her into his arms. Hilda screams, asking where he's taking her. Rogan replies that he's going to take her outside the estate. The girl screams in horror that it's impossible. After a while, she realizes that, fortunately, Rogan simply carried her to Dorothy. And when the maid was wiping the mistress's feet, she asked in surprise what kind of look the miss had. A little later, the knight officially introduces himself. He is the third son of Count Rakan, Ilya Rakan. He adds that he is honored to meet Lady Hilda Arpeggio. Hilda says that he turns out to be a normal person, introduces herself in response, and almost admits that she regrets meeting him, but quickly corrects herself and says that she is glad to meet him. The Viscount reports that Lord Rakan is a knight hired by the Duke to protect Hilda. The girl asks if he can be trusted, and the boy replies that his abilities are recognized by the Emperor himself, who granted him the title of knight. Hilda thinks he's untrustworthy, even so. The Viscount adds that Lord Rakan's swordsmanship is truly impressive. He was knighted at the age of 8, so the lady can rely on him, at least in combat terms. Hilda thinks the wording sounds odd. The Viscount notes that they are lucky that the Duke is not at the estate at the moment. Otherwise, having seen all the chaos with his own eyes, Ilya asks, would it have been so bad? They answer, yes, very bad. Hilda adds that the Duke will find out very soon anyway. The estate is full of eyes and ears. The Viscount ordered the servants to remain silent, but it is impossible to hide everything, so it is better to be prepared for a reprimand. He gives them until the end of the day. Both need to write explanatory statements. 5 pages. About repentance. The two look at the paper and can barely contain themselves. Then they simultaneously slam their hands on the table and ask if they are serious about writing an explanatory note. Rogan watches silently as their hands touch. After a while, the Viscount asks if a letter has arrived. The butler replies that yes, one is from the Viscountcy, the other is from the Imperial family. Rogan orders them to be left behind. He will give them to the Duke when he returns. He thinks about the letter from the Imperial family, assuming that it is about the Night Castle that Hilda requested. She said that she wanted the castle to belong to her, and the man replied that it belonged to the Emperor. But the lady remarked that since they no longer held ceremonies there, the Imperial family had little use for it. And if they offered to buy it, they'd sell it for half price. Now the Viscount is wondering whether the Imperial family has responded to such a bold request from a girl who has just been entered into the family tree. At this point, the butler reports that he's spoken to the servants again about the daytime noise. He thought the Viscount was still worried, and the young man thanks him. The butler smiles. The boy asks what's wrong. He replies that the gentleman, usually calm, has become more emotional. The guy sheepishly says that he understands and will be more careful. But the servant replies that he doesn't mean this as a reproach. Even as a child, the master was too quiet and serious. The servant sometimes worried that he was holding back too much. That's why he was pleased to see the current changes. At that moment, someone knocks on the door, calling Rogan, and the butler leaves. Rogan opens the door and sees Hilda. She hands over her explanatory note. The Viscount asks if she has thought about her behavior. The lady says he will understand when he reads it. Then she asks what Ilya Rakan is like. Rogan replies that he's exactly as she saw him. Hilda wonders if he's really crazy. Rogan says many people think he's like that. Hilda is horrified, thinking the Duke has assigned her a lunatic, and feels it's more of a punishment than a reward. She asks why such a man would even agree to become her knight. After all, she'd heard others refuse. They didn't want to grab hold of a rotten rope. Rogan clarifies what she means. Hilda says it's exactly that. No one wanted to become her knight, believing there would be no benefit. The Viscount asks if Elijah himself said this. Hilda notices that the boy looks more irritated than she does, and she thinks it's clearly someone with an interest. She recently sat next to a knight. She remembers how Rogan made her write an explanatory note, and the knight sitting next to her offered to help, because he was a master of these papers. Hilda refused, but the guy insisted he'd been writing them for 4 years, and even offered his note as a sample. She was shocked, wondering if he'd really accomplished everything already. She insisted she didn't need it, certain he'd probably written something absurd. It irritated her that he'd appeared out of the blue and spouted nonsense. The girl asked why he was behaving like this, following her and saying strange things. The guy just smiled and said he was wrong. Her temper was so cute that he wanted to tease her again and again. Hilda thought he was talking nonsense, but the guy added that he had done the right thing by choosing her as his mistress. Hilda asked if he knew her father was a commoner. Perhaps he had been pestering her without knowing it, but now it was all clear. She decided that he would not benefit from her, but Ilya only smiled and said that serving the Duke was an honor, and there was no one who would not want to get closer to the Arpeggio family. Outside the duchy, there are plenty of knights dreaming of gaining power. But he came to her, the Count's third son, so there must be a reason. Hilda understands that, having learned of her origins, others simply didn't want to work with her. They dismissed her as a rotten rope. But Elijah said he came already knowing everything. And Hilda understands why he came. Now the Viscount asks if the knight claimed she was a rotten rope. Hilda says he didn't say so directly, but that's clearly what others think. Rogan sighs, and Hilda says she still doesn't understand why Ilya decided to become her knight if there was no benefit. The county is rich and stable. The family's eldest daughter is married to Prince Asnim, and they have influence. And the Count has 3 sons, the eldest a distinguished mage. There's no need to claim the inheritance. Hilda says Ilya could have had a life of power, but without the pressure of family, the very kind many aristocrats dream of, and she's even a little envious. Rogan notices the expression on her face and knows exactly what she's thinking. Hilda looks at him and says that she still doubts Elijah. Perhaps because she has many enemies, the Viscount asks worriedly why she says this. He notes that Ilya is experienced enough to become the Empire's youngest knight. But why isn't he in the imperial ranks now? Hilda replies that she doesn't know. Perhaps he was fired because of his personality. The Viscount says Ilya is too free-spirited and enjoys having fun, which is why he struggles in a group setting. Hilda asks if that means he chose her simply because he found her interesting. Rogan nods. Exactly, and he wonders if this will calm the lady down. After all, Elijah needs to be kept from recklessness. Hilda gets angry and realizes that if everything is as Rogan says, then Ilya really is crazy. But she's still glad he's at least not making any devious plans. And if she gets used to his antics, maybe they'll even get along. After a while, the guy asks the lady if she wants to learn how to wield a sword. She replies yes. He apologizes and asks the reason. The lady says she must be able to protect herself. The boy notices that she was recently attacked and asks if that's why. Hilda replies yes, although she understands they weren't bandits, but mercenaries. Ilya says she's worried. It seems she doesn't trust his skills. The girl admits she's never seen him in action, but still has no doubt about his strength. The guy is touched by her words. Hilda recalls that Rogan spoke of him as a talented swordsman, so she decides to trust him completely. He hands her a sword in its sheath and suggests she strike him with the intention of putting him into eternal sleep. Hilda realizes that since the sword is in its sheath, it will not be harmed even if she actually tries to stab it. The guy calmly tells her to get started. The girl senses a hidden message behind this. It's as if he's implying that she doesn't even deserve him to seriously compete with her. This hurts her pride and fuels her anger. The main character swings her sword, trying to reach him, but the guy easily dodges the blow. The girl immediately understands that he is moving faster than she expected.